where individuals can experience a realistic second life through a game called Empyrean God Realm. This game is based on quantum entanglement and neural connection technologies, enabling users to have 100% realistic experiences, including temperature, taste, and touch. Also, players can embark on extreme expeditions and engage in thrilling battles, all while enjoying the freedom of flight. Moreover, this game offers countless business opportunities, allowing users to amass wealth rapidly, akin to a CEO marrying rich and beautiful partners of their choice, regardless of gender. What's even more enchanting is that the new gaming helmet available can repair users' nerves and rejuvenate their bodies, provided they log into the game daily. This news was a ray of hope for individuals like Lu Chen, who had been living with physical disabilities. So, he immediately bought the gaming helmet that Tianxin Corp had promoted, eagerly anticipating that all their promises would come true, because his life hadn't always been like this. In the past, he had a high-paying job with a promising future. However, an accident dramatically altered his circumstances, leaving him severely injured while protecting someone. With this, Lu Chen found himself on the receiving end of misfortune. To save him, they had to deplete all their savings and sell their properties. But despite their best efforts, he remained a cripple, only capable of moving his head and arms. From that moment onwards, he became a weight on his sister's shoulders, and a target for judgmental onlookers, who seemed to have nothing better to do with their lives. Couldn't resist belittling him, even though they were aware of his tragic story. But although their words dripped with malice, he recognized that this was his new reality, and he didn't want to burden his sister any further. So, he decided to leave. Luckily, the game called Empyrean God Realm appeared. This game had sparked numerous rumors. Some said that players who took part in its internal testing underwent profound transformations, with one even becoming superhuman. However, what truly piqued Lu Chen's interest was the game's rumored ability to help high paraplegia and vegetative state patients regain their mobility and return to a normal life. Fueled by these whispers of hope, he staked his future on this game. With this determination, he went straight home, eager to test the game immediately. However, upon his return, he discovered that his sister wasn't there, and examining his surrounding, he saw his phone displayed a message from her, explaining that she would be working overtime. But this only strengthened his resolve, so he hastily retrieved the gaming helmet he had purchased, even though he wasn't sure if it would work flawlessly, since this was a second-hand VR headgear. But due to financial problems, he had no other option. Thus, he hoped for the best and logged into the game. Now that the game had completely booted up, a system avatar suddenly materialized, welcoming him to the game. It then prompted him to enter his ID, which he did without hesitation, choosing a peculiar name for himself, the only wild one. Now that was settled, the system avatar dramatically tore through the fabric of space, revealing the breathtaking in-game world to him. However, he couldn't help but notice something unusual. Looking down at his own hands, he was taken aback by their fluffiness. This surprised and confused him, so he wondered if this was a new character class in the game, as he hadn't heard of any players discussing it before. Typically, games started with character customization and clothing options. As he examined himself further, it became evident that he had transformed into a wild beast, a far cry from the warrior, puppeteer, and shooter classes he had expected. Now, he pondered if he could still hunt wild beasts for leveling up or making money in this new form. If not, it would be a total problem for him, which made him panic. But freaking out wouldn't get him anywhere. So, he took a deep breath and opened the character menu. To his dismay, the game classified him as a weak werewolf. This designation came with significant disadvantages: a negative 20% penalty to his basic type specialty, lower than average attributes, a low-class bloodline, and a mere 1% critical rate. Upon seeing this, he felt a deep sense of disappointment, and it even brought tears to his eyes. But suddenly it dawned upon him. He realized that he can now move, and his new form felt incredibly real, just like his physical body before his accident. This filled him with excitement, so he immediately tested his newfound mobility by running around with unrestrained joy. He even let out a howl like a real beast, a manifestation of his happiness. However, his celebration was short-lived, as his howl attracted the attention of other players. But to them, he was just an ugly beast, a stepping stone to level up. One player even remarked that it wasn't easy to deal critical damage to ugly creatures, which Luchan couldn't help but feel a pang of annoyance at such comments, but he also couldn't deny that their in-game gear looked impressive, even though they were rookies, which deepened his appreciation for the game. However, the approaching players had a different agenda, as they were only excited about the prospect of taking him down and looting his valuable weapon for profit. This revelation shocked him. He hadn't expected his weapon to be so expensive. The reason soon became clear, as he witnesses that he deals substantial damage to rookie players. Unfortunately, taking on 5 opponents at once was impossible for him at his current level. So, he desperately stalled for time, as he puts all his hopes in the chance that the other wild beast to automatically attack the players. And just as he expected, several creatures like him emerged from the bushes and attacked them at the same time, dealing a significant damage to them, smashing them in all directions. And while they're getting their ass handed to them, Luchan took this opportunity for a back shot, landing the final blow. This earned him 10 experience points and 1 point of monster reputation, which also unlocks the reputation store. This discovery filled him with joy, as he realized that defeating players could yield rewards. So he eagerly continued his onslaught, amassing a total of 30 experience points and 3 more monster reputation points. Additionally, he obtained 5 basic level recovery potions. This made him curious about whether this medicine came from a reputation store, so he opened the store window. To his surprise, it seemed his assumptions were wrong. The store didn't sell recovery medicine. It appeared that wild beasts like him couldn't purchase such items. However, on the brighter side, he noticed that he could level up his talent and quality in the store. With this, Luchan recalled reading on the official website that players didn't possess talents until they chose their careers. This seemed to be a significant advantage. So, he wondered if being a wild beast was a sort of cheat code, but that is only the case if he could also kill his own kind. If not, he will be stuck at level 1. So, without hesitation, he started his friendly fire. To his delight, he found that he could kill monsters without drawing the attention of other wolves as well. This realization filled him with joy, and he continued his onslaught with enthusiasm. A few moments later, he had killed a few of his own kind, and he even got lucky enough to obtain a quality upgrade point. This development thrilled him even more, so he continued his unprovoked menace behavior with increased energy. 15 minutes later, he noticed that he looked stronger than before. His prefix had finally improved from weak to normal, and not only had his character changed, but his physical body had also become stronger. The negative stats he had initially were now gone. This realization filled him with excitement. He was happy to discover that being a wild beast wasn't a bad thing in this game, and the realism of it all made it feel like he himself was undergoing a transformation. However, his celebrations were short-lived as his attention was diverted by a scream for help, so he immediately turned around to investigate, filling his eyes with shock, as he couldn't believe that a few mother effing perverts are cornering a woman, since they had heard rumors that hitting players without any equipment with a mace would result in the cloth bursting effect. To his disbelief, it seemed to be true, as the pink-haired woman's armor is broken. But still, even faced with such circumstances, she was not willing to force shut down her game, because doing so would result in a 3-hour downtime as punishment, and she had already signed a contract to be the ambassador of Empyrean and needed to promote the game soon. So, she would not quit now. However, her decision might change, as the pervert keeps on perverting, shamelessly looking at her body, and he heard that this game used the player's real body shape, making him even more brazen. Luckily, Luchan was not having any of this harassment, so he bonked the offender hard on the head, and since he had leveled up, dispatching the others was easier, and having good recovery potions at his disposal really helped him quicken the process. However, it was a shame that only 1 potion would drop from each player, and that wasn't enough. Meanwhile, the girl assumed that the wolf had saved her, and she noticed he was eyeing the potions, so she thanked him by giving him all the potions she had. This surprised Luchan because he had initially planned to attack her as well. However, because of her kind gesture, he decided against it and simply took the potions before leaving the scene. With that settled, he noticed that there were people everywhere. It seemed like he wasn't far from the newbie village. If he stood out too much, he might become a target for elimination. So, he made the decision to stay away from other players as much as possible and focus on hunting other beasts. After a while, He determined that he had distanced himself far enough to be safe for now, and since he had become a wild beast as soon as he logged into the game, he had no idea what the other players were doing. So, he seized this opportunity to go to the forums and watch the officially released promotion clip to get a better sense of what was happening in the game world. To his surprise, he spotted the girl he had met earlier in the promotion clip. This revelation astonished him because he had never imagined that she had such a background. However, what surprised him even more was the sheer number of players in the game. It appeared that there were more players than wild beasts, and they were fiercely competing for resources, making it challenging to level up. Yet he couldn't help but smile at his unique situation. As a wild beast, he had the advantage of being able to explore the deepest parts of the forest without worrying about monster attacks. This gave him access to a vast number of monsters to hunt and gain experience from. So, he continued his rampage with enthusiasm, and each kill rewarded him with 10 experience points, a single 0-star quality, and a single 0-star talent upgrade. After a few moments, he had acquired 10 0-star talent upgrade. It seemed that he could finally upgrade his talents to a lowly werewolf bloodline, which increased his normal attack's critical chance from 1% to 6%. This delighted him, as it was a significant improvement. However, he couldn't help but wonder why the game consistently provided him with 0-star quality upgrades. To find answers, he examined the information about these upgrades. With this, he discovered that he could either sell 10 of them to gain 1 reputation point, or merge 10 of them to create a single 1-star upgrade, and he needed 10 of these to rank up. This meant he had to defeat at least 100 opponents, but that would be time-consuming. So, it seems like he needed to find higher-level beasts to increase his chances of obtaining 1-star upgrades. Thus, he wasted no time and began attacking ordinary rank werewolves, one after the other. This earned him 15 experience points with each kill, helping him reach level 2 faster. However, the drops remained the same, with no equipment nor 1-star upgrades. With this, he realized that he needed to challenge stronger opponents. Luckily, he didn't have to search for long, as he spotted a formidable-looking beast, different from those he had previously encountered. Despite its strength, it was still at level 1, and now that he was level 2 with spare potions, he felt confident in his ability to win the fight. So without hesitation, he engaged the beast in combat, and despite the creature having higher damage due to the size difference of their rod, Liu Chen's agility, stamina, and performance proved to be an advantage. After a respectable 5 minutes of intense battle, he emerged victorious, and the battle had yielded him 20 experience points, both 1-star quality and talent upgrades, and even a dropped weapon. It was clear that spending 5 minutes fighting such monsters was definitely worth the effort, but the problem now is that he has 2 weapons in hand, and he doesn't plan on dual-wielding them. Luckily, he remembered that he could sell one for 300 yuan, but before that, he needs to confirm the market price, so he decided to check the official website. After searching the market, he found that the weapon had only seen 100 transactions, suggesting that it was quite scarce. However, he decided to list it for 260 yuan, just to see if it would sell. After placing the item on the market, he closed the window and was about to continue his journey. To his surprise, a notification immediately popped up. Opening it, he discovered that the item had been instantly purchased by a player named Forecover, and the payment had already been transferred to his bank account. Seeing this news, he quickly connected his phone and opened the message to verify if it was real. To his delight, the transaction was indeed a success. This brought immense happiness to him, as he could now start earning money and not be a burden to his sister. It also meant that the company wasn't lying about the numerous business opportunities in Empyrean, and with his special class and newfound confidence, he became even more excited to explore this virtual world further. So, he continued his killing spree. 20 minutes later, a system interface popped up, notifying him that he had reached level 3, resulting in significant increases in his attack, defense, and HP. However, he couldn't help but feel disappointed as he had defeated around 20 ordinary werewolves and a level 1 strong werewolf, yet nothing valuable had dropped. With this in mind, he decided to challenge a level 2 special beast. In the area, there were a total of 5 special beasts, 2 at level 1, another 2 at level 2, and 1 at level 3, so he plans to kill these level 1 and 2 beasts, allowing him to repeatedly hunt all 4 beasts per respawn cycle. With this, he eagerly approached the first level 2 beast he encountered. To his surprise, his direct attack to the beast's head didn't kill it. Instead, it counterattacked. However, the counterattack's damage was low, only slightly higher than the level 1 beasts, but it seems like it compensated for this with incredible attack speed. Hence its name, the Nimble Werewolf. But although its speed was impressive, Liu Chen believed it didn't matter much at such low levels. With this, he felt confident that he could take down all 4 beasts before their respawn. And so, he strictly executed his plans as fast as he could. After a gruesome 40 minutes had passed, Liu Chen was having his main character moment, standing in the pile of dead werewolves he just mercilessly slaughtered. After that, he was curious about his progress, so he opened his stats window, only to be unable to help himself but grin, as he noticed that upgrading his talent to 1 star had granted him a 10% critical hit rate. However, what excited him even more was the option to choose from 3 rewards every time his quality upgraded. This feature allowed him to upgrade his abilities up to 50% in each type of werewolf he wanted to become, which is very helpful, and you can never go wrong choosing to be strong. So he did just that. With this decision, he transformed into a special beast, significantly enhancing his abilities, and he now felt invincible. And after half an hour, Liu Chen had grown significantly stronger than before, as it seemed like he had chosen every available special talent for his current rank, resulting in a lengthy description that categorized him as a strong, nimble, hunky werewolf. He had also reached level 4. However, before continuing his hunt, he decided to sell the weapons he had obtained. Given their condition, he figured people would buy them even at a price of 300 yuan. So, he listed them all at that price. To his surprise, as soon as he closed the trade window, a message popped up notifying him that all his items had been sold immediately, which made his eyes lit up with excitement as he realized he had earned 1,700 yuan in just one afternoon. This meant he could buy his little sister, Louis, a new set of clothes. Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl from earlier was jumping with joy as she finally obtained the weapon. However, as she thought about it, she couldn't help but wonder how the seller had managed to acquire so many maces. It didn't make sense because there were numerous rookies fighting over a limited number of monsters, making it nearly impossible to gather so much equipment. This raised suspicions, leading her to consider whether the seller might be the highest level player in their region. To confirm her assumptions, she decided to check the leaderboard. To her surprise, there was no player with the name Only I'm Wild, not even among the top 500 players in their area. With this, she concluded that the seller must be an illegal broker. However, before she could delve deeper into her investigation, her friend reminded her that it was time for her live stream. Reluctantly, she halted her investigation and started the live stream, warmly greeting everyone. Then she introduced herself as Fonglingji and then proceeded to show the chaotic nature of the newbie grounds. There were already more than 100,000 players within the hunting ground, making it incredibly crowded. This overcrowding was making players unhappy, as it was making leveling up more difficult. They also had to contend with the cramped conditions in the newbie village. One player even joked that she might get pregnant due to the overcrowding. However, Fonglingji was there to brighten their mood, as she began providing tips on how to level up faster, suggesting that they acquire a mace from the trading place. Even though it was only a level 1 weapon, having a mace would help them outclass hundreds of other players. Meanwhile, Liu Chen was also watching her stream, which helped him understand why his weapon had become so popular. He also got to observe what was happening in the newbie village, which made him realize how difficult it must be for players to progress there. In contrast, he felt fortunate to be a wild beast, even though there were only 30 beasts in his current area. However, he couldn't afford to idle around, as there were still 4 special beasts he needed to farm. So, he sprang into action, and for every special werewolf he killed, he gained 28 to 38 experience points, as well as both 1-star talent and quality upgrades. With just a few moments passing, Liu Chen had successfully upgraded his talent and quality. He now felt so powerful that it wasn't even difficult for him to defeat beasts 1 level above him, as he dispatched a level 5 nimble werewolf with ease, earning 50 experience points, 1-star upgrades, and another tattered werewolf mace. This was particularly exciting for him as he was about to earn another 300 yuan from selling the mace. However, Shock filled his eyes as he picked up the mace. To his amazement, it turned out to be an S-grade weapon, offering additional stats to the wearer. Beyond the extra attack points, it also provided extra attributes like 2 points in power, which translated to 2 points in attack and 1 point in defense. Additionally, the 2 points in physical build meant an additional 40 health points and 40 energy points. This made it a godly item for a newbie. The only question on his mind now was how much he should sell it for. With this in mind, he decided to open up the forum, hoping to find someone who could provide him with reliable opinions. However, to his dismay, he was met with a bunch of trolls who didn't take his questions seriously, so it seemed like he had no choice but to seek information in the trading place instead. Unfortunately, it appeared that no one had ever sold an S-grade mace before, so he had to make a decision without much guidance. And considering that this weapon was only level 1, he realized that pricing it too high could be troublesome if no one bought it, as it was better to sell it quickly. And so he decided to auction it with a starting price of 1,000 yuan, and just hope that it would be sold within half an hour. If it indeed sold, he could earn 3,000 yuan today, and if this trend continued for a month, he wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. Meanwhile, one of the players came across his auction and couldn't help but wonder why he was starting the bidding at 1,000 yuan. It seemed like an absurdly high price for a level 1 mace, so they assumed the seller might be looking for someone gullible enough to buy it. However, this didn't align with the prices he had set for previous weapons, which were quite reasonable. Therefore, it suggested that there was something special about this particular weapon. A few moments later, in a change of scenery, deep within the forest, Liu Chen continued his grind, and he acquired another weapon, which brought a smile to his face as he added another 300 yuan to his earnings. He had also reached level 5. However, the issue he faced was that he was only getting 1-star talent and evolution upgrades. So, it seemed like he needed to venture even deeper into the forest. And so, he did just that, pushing through the dense underbrush and towering trees. Luckily, his persistence paid off when he encountered a level 6 werewolf with exceptional agility. And looking at it up close, there was no doubt that this beast possessed a 2-star quality prefix. With this, excitement filled his eyes as he eagerly prepared to face it. And not even a moment passed. Their attacks clashed, and their fight is so epic that their every attack tore through the wind. But still, Liu Chen emerged victorious, earning 70 experience points, along with 2-star evolution and talent shard. This confirmed his earlier assumptions, so he decided to focus solely on hunting monsters with exceptional in their names. A few moments later, after a whole day of grinding, he finally reached level 6. It had been tough, especially since the experience required had skyrocketed starting from level 5. But even so, he was happy because he had also leveled up his quality, so he was now considered a werewolf with exceptional strength and agility. Then, he checked his quality. It became evident that evolving to a 2-star quality directly doubled his attributes. However, he couldn't help but feel that these prefixes were becoming a problem. Because of this, he could be easily spotted even when trying to hide behind the trees. Still, he decided to deal with this issue another time, as he had been grinding for so long, and he was tired. So, it was time to log off for today. But before that, he needed to handle the equipment he had obtained. So, he opened up the trade window and put it all up for trade. As soon as he was done, his eyes lit up. He knew that he had just earned a significant amount of cash, with 9 regular maces and 2 small high-quality ones. Despite their agility boost, which wasn't ideal for him, he could sell them for 700 to 800 each in the auction area. With this, he looked forward to reuniting with his sister, because at last, he was making money to support the family, just as he used to. Not long after, he successfully logged off and took off his helmet. He then noticed a warm sensation in his hands. Witnessing the company's promises becoming reality, he assumed that this might also mean he could regain his sensations in the future. With this thought, his eyes lit up once more, and he was pleased that his second-hand gaming headset was a good purchase. However, his celebration was short-lived as he heard their front door creak. This could only mean that his sister was working overtime again and had come back very late. And looking at her closer, she seemed to be drunk, which made Liu Chen worried, and so he asked Louis why she is in that state. However, she was too focused on sharing some good news with her brother, so she didn't answer his question, and instead came closer to his brother and told him the good news that she was going to make a large amount of money this time, since their company was moving to the Empyrean God realm, and she was a core member of the team, since the head office had found great business opportunities in the Ninth Heaven domain, so they allocated $5 million for them to join the game, which was the reason for their recent celebration. And the best part was that she was now the deputy team leader. Unexpectedly, she was so drunk and happy that she somehow ended up sitting on her stepbrother's lap, which made Luchin feel flustered. However, he wasn't as intoxicated as she was, so he gently reminded her to be careful next time, considering that she was all grown up now, and their current position was quite awkward for step-siblings to be in. To his surprise, Louie's drunkenness seemed to unleash some Alabama spirit in her, as she didn't seem to mind being so close to her stepbrother. She even rationalized that they weren't real siblings after all. Therefore, she believes that she isn't doing anything wrong. What the fuck? And she had already decided that she wanted to be with him forever and take care of him for a lifetime. Luchin was taken aback by this revelation, and he couldn't even respond, since his face was already buried against her as she hugged him tightly. And in an oddly surreal turn of events, they somehow tumbled off his wheelchair, landing in an even more awkward position, and Louie showed no sign of stopping. In fact, she pressed herself even closer to Luchin, and before he could utter a word, she gently touched his lips, silencing him, as she didn't want to hear him talk about not wanting to burden her, especially since the Empyrean God realm had attracted hundreds of millions of players from around the world, including major companies, conglomerates, and even government officials. So, he can rest easy, as she was presented with a massive opportunity, being paid while playing a game, and she was determined to take care of both of them. However, Luchin had some good news of his own to share as well, so he excitedly informed her that he was also making money in the Empyrean God realm. Therefore, she doesn't need to work so hard to support him. Unfortunately, she didn't hear what he said, as she had already fallen asleep. Nevertheless, Luchin was overjoyed to see his stepsister smile again, and since she was also playing the game, he decided to tell this at a later time, as he was confident that they had many opportunities to meet there. However, he couldn't help but ponder the fact that even national forces had entered the game. This led him to suspect that there might be hidden secrets with this chapter. A game called Empyrean God Realm emerged, promising endless opportunities for those who played it. There were even rumors that it could enhance human capabilities and had the potential to cure patients in a vegetative state. The main character, Luchin, pinned all his hopes on this game. However, due to his financial constraints, he could only afford a second-hand device from the black market. Unexpectedly, this choice transformed him into a werewolf, different from what he had anticipated. Nevertheless, this transformation proved advantageous as he could freely explore the forest without being attacked by monsters, and he can even attack his own species without drawing others aggro. Driven by this newfound strength, he grinded relentlessly, slaying every beast he encountered, and for every weapon he obtained, he sold it on the trading market for 300 yuan, and he auctioned those with special stats. This outcome made Luchin delighted, as he was no longer a burden to his stepsister, and so, he logged out of the game with high spirits, eager to share the good news with her. However, his celebration was cut short when he discovered that his stepsister was working overtime again. To his surprise, she has a good news to share with him, and that she would be making a substantial amount of money, because her company had joined Empyrean God Realm, and they generously sponsored them. And this was all thanks to the game's massive player base, which included even the government and other conglomerates. With this, she assured Luchin that he no longer had to worry, and she had already made up her mind to be with him forever and take care of him. And before Luchin could share his own good news, his stepsister fell asleep. So, he decided to tell her later since they had many opportunities to meet in the game. However, he can't help but wonder why even the national forces had entered the Empyrean God Realm. This could only mean that there might be hidden secrets in the game that the majority of players were unaware of. Now on to the next part. He woke up the next day only to find out that his sister was already gone to work. Still, this made him smile as he realized that she had truly grown up. It also meant that he couldn't afford to idle around. So, he logged into Empyrean God Realm again, and as he looked at his character, he felt thankful that he was still a wild monster, and seeing at his balance, it seems like he had sold everything. since he got 3,915 yuan in his bank. But before he could start grinding again, he decided it would be best to check Feng Lingji's live stream to see what was happening on the human player's side. Looking at her stream, she was complaining about how hard the game was, because she had played until 4 AM, but she's only at level 3, and she had heard that even the best players were just reaching level 5, and mostly they are from a big corporation. However, Feng Lingji was thankful to a player named Wild because he had sold many maces, making it easier for her to farm. But her appreciation for Wild sparked jealousy among her viewers, so they started trash-talking Wild, accusing him of cheating and wishing for him to get banned. Still, Feng Lingji tried to defend Wild, asking her viewers to stop, and she had heard that Wild had played in the beta test, which might explain why he knew how to farm maces. And before things could escalate further, she said goodbye to her chat and continued her grind, as it wasn't easy to farm with thousands of players competing together. Meanwhile, Lu Chen was glad to see that not only was this girl beautiful, but she was also a nice person. So, before she ended her stream, he gave her a tip as thanks. In doing so, Feng Lingji was notified of his donation, which made her eyes filled with shock as she realized that Wild had watched her stream. Now that was settled, Lu Chen began his grind, hunting level 6 exceptional beasts, and as usual, with every kill, he received 70 experience points, 2-star upgrades, and a weapon from time to time. Then, he continued this for 3 hours straight without taking a break. Thanks to his determination, he reached level 7, gaining an additional 740 HP. Furthermore, he upgraded his quality to a perfect 2-star beast, which made him very happy. However, the issue with his ever-lengthening prefix persisted, but since he didn't have a clue about what to do with it, he decided to let it be for now and just move on to a higher level area. As he strolled through the woods, he couldn't help but wonder what his name would become after another quality upgrade. He even entertained the idea that it might be visible from 800 meters away. However, his train of thought was disrupted when he caught a glimpse of a cool-looking elite monster with a striking name. Not only that, but the beast also appeared to have 10 special monsters as its subordinates following it around. With this, Lu Chen knew he couldn't handle them alone. Still, he couldn't let this opportunity slip by, so he racked his brain for an idea on what to do. With this, he decided to open his inventory, only to find himself with only 4 healing potions, which was insufficient. Moreover, their cooldown times were a problem, as he was sure they wouldn't keep up with his need in battling the boss, and the 17 maces he had collected were also useless for this situation. Additionally, his upgrading materials weren't sufficient for another upgrade, so it seems like facing the boss wasn't a smart move in his current condition. However, before he could turn away, he was reminded of the reputation store, which he immediately opened. And to his surprise, the store was selling a unique item called the Legion Recruitment Order. Looking at its information, it seemed that he could recruit a creature using this item. After recruitment, the wild creature's level and talent rank wouldn't exceed that of the recruiter, and its quality must be lower than the recruiter's level. Additionally, the creature's original equipment would be cleared, and if the creature died, it would disappear without dropping experience, equipment, or items, but he would get back the Legion Recruitment Order. However, recruiting a beast isn't simple either, as the player needed to engage in a one-on-one duel with the target and is unable to use potions during the duel. Also, if the target is attacked by an outside party, the recruitment would automatically fail. But the player didn't have to worry about unintentionally killing the target because after defeating it, they would be left with just 1 HP and be in a recruitable state. But still, recruitment had a certain chance to fail. If it did, the target would die without dropping anything, and only the Legion Recruitment Order would remain, returning to his inventory. However, if the recruitment was a success, the player could consume reputation, talent fragments, and quality potions to improve the attributes of the recruited entity. Now that he understood the potential of this unique item, Lu Chen considered it to be useful for facing the boss in front of him. However, recruiting just one underling wouldn't be sufficient, so he wondered if the Legion Recruitment Order could be upgraded for multiple uses. But since it cost only 10 reputation points, he bought it to find out. To his surprise, he discovered that it could indeed be upgraded, but it required a whopping 500 reputation points, a massive jump from the 10 he initially spent. And although he found this cost to be massive, he knew that complaining wouldn't change anything, as he decided to sell all his available materials in the hopes of reaching level 3 for the item. Nevertheless, he couldn't help but feel a sense of loss as he watched his hard-earned 3-star materials transform into reputation points. A few moments later, he successfully upgraded his Legion order to level 3, allowing him to recruit 3 underlings, which he immediately initiated the recruitment process by challenging 3 special beasts. After defeating each one of them, he recruited them without any issues. However, he still needed to upgrade their stats, causing him another tear to come out from his eyes as he used his remaining materials. Nevertheless, he now had strong subordinates at his side, which excited him, as he felt prepared to face the boss. And so without any hesitation, they charged as a team to attack. They first disposed of the weakest beasts, and after 10 minutes, only the boss remained. He then commanded Urtzi to charge first, but to his surprise, this mini-boss packed a punch, swiftly reducing Urtzi's health by more than half, while sustaining only minimal damage to itself, showcasing its sturdiness. Realizing the danger, Liu Chen ordered Urtzi to step back while he and the others took over, employing a cunning tactic of attacking and then retreating to recover. With this, it was only a matter of time before they defeated the Wolf Commander, Zakas. This victory rewarded Liu Chen with 360 experience, 3-star upgrades, a white level 5 leather shoulder, a gray level 1 tattered fur vest, and a green level 5 shattered stone mace. Liu Chen was particularly excited about the green quality gear because it had a high attack and additional attributes, providing an extra 6 in strength, 8 in agility, and 6 in stamina. It was a potent weapon on its own, and this made Liu Chen hesitant to sell it. And due to this, he came up with a clever plan. Instead of selling it, he decided to wait for Zakas to respawn and obtain another weapon from him. And while he waited, he commanded his subordinates to roam the area, targeting werewolves at levels 7 to 8. However, before they left, he reminded them not to wander too far, always pick up equipment, rest when their health dropped below 40%, and immediately notify him if Zakas respawned. This effectively set up an auto-farming system, allowing him to take a break while monitoring his experience and loot increasing from a distance. To his surprise, it seems like his subordinates were more efficient than he was, which made him felt relieved, and now he didn't have to worry about them too much. So he took this opportunity to check the player situation in the live stream room, while hoping that no one had already caught up to him. As Liu Chen opened the live stream, he noticed that Feng Lingji was also dedicated to her daily grind, and it appeared that she was even more hardworking than him, as she is currently multitasking, interacting with her viewers as she grind, and she motivates them to strive for higher levels, as she emphasized the importance of reaching level 10 since it unlocked access to the main city in the Empyrean God Realm. At this stage, players could select from 9 major professions, such as Poison Master, Spirit Tamer, Puppeteer, Archer, and more, promising a significantly more exciting gameplay experience. However, the other players she was with pointed out that the highest level player currently was still below level 5. They had also heard that it takes 10,000 experience points just to level up from 5 to 6, so what she was talking about seemed quite distant. Nonetheless, they were excited about the guild system, which should have been open for a while now, so they suggested to Lingji that she should consider joining a guild, to which she responded that she didn't want to, because based on the current situation, being part of a guild would also mean competing for resources, and she preferred the flexibility of not being tied to one. Meanwhile, Liu Chen learned about the guild system and immediately opened the guild function. To his surprise, there were already numerous guilds to choose from, and many of them were famous groups. There was even a special forces division, which made him wonder if it was a real military unit, but seeing the multitude of guilds made him smile, realizing that this game was becoming more and more incredible by the day. 8 hours later, the game's realism was proven as Liu Chen had even slept peacefully in the game world, as he was awakened by a poke on the snout from one of his subordinates. And now that he's fully awake now, he was surprised to find that it was already 7 in the morning. This also meant that Zakas respawned every 8 hours, which was quite a long time even for Liu Chen. Nevertheless, he knew there was nothing he could do about it, so he decided to let it be. But before battling Zakas again, he planned to buy 2 equipment slots so that he could equip the shoulder pads and armor. After that, He opened his character panel to check his attributes, but as he examined his information closely, shock filled his face, as he couldn't believe that he had already reached level 8, and what was even more surprising was that he was almost level 9. This outcome brought a big smile to his face as he couldn't believe how effective his auto-hunting subordinates had been. And with 3 pieces of equipment on him, Zakas was no longer a threat. So, he went on to hunt Zakas, particularly aiming to obtain the stone mace again, all while wondering how much this green-grade equipment would sell for. A few moments later, he successfully killed Zakas once again, and to his delight, he obtained what he wanted, another green level 5 stone mace. As a bonus, a shoulder armor also dropped, and since his subordinates didn't have equipment yet, he planned to give these items to them. However, as soon as he opened his inventory, shock filled his face once more, as he couldn't believe that his subordinates had actually gathered 20 maces from farming. With this revelation, he realized that his earlier worries about spending reputation on recruits were foolish, as it had proven to him that it was indeed worth it. But as expected, the prices of maces had dropped, as they were now only selling for 280 yuan each. However, he could still sell a few of these low-quality ones for a bit more, and the white level 5 shoulder armor could be auctioned at a starting bid of 700 yuan, with a buyout price of 1,500 yuan. The only problem now was that he didn't know how much the green mace was worth. This left him wondering, so he decided to go to the forum and ask for advice. But even before he could do that, several messages popped up, notifying him of the successful transactions of the maces. These constant notifications were distracting, so he disabled them for the time being. And now that he could focus, he noticed that his subordinates were just standing still, doing nothing. So he commanded them to continue grinding mobs while he went to the forums to gather more information. To his surprise, someone had already noticed the white quality shoulder pad he was selling, and it was causing quite a stir. This also drew attention to the 33 pieces of mace he was selling. With this, people were now curious about who this wild player was. However, this didn't surprise him, because even though monsters could avoid appearing on the gaming rankings, sellers couldn't hide their IDs when selling items, so getting noticed was just a matter of time. In fact, this only made him more confident that they would take his question more seriously now that they had noticed him. So he asked how much a green level 5 weapon was worth, and just like what he assumed, someone immediately answered, saying that it could be sold for 5,000 yuan, considering the shoulder armor was sold for 1,500. Still, the trolls persisted as they tried to confuse him. However, since the first reply seemed to have taken his question seriously, Lu Chen decided to follow that advice, setting the starting bid for the stone mace at 1,000 yuan, with a buyout price of 5,000 yuan, and even if it didn't sell immediately, he could try again in 8 hours. At the same time, one of Lingzi's friends was in shock to see the green quality mace, and even more surprising was that it came from a wild user again. This was impressive because he not only had a white quality item but also green ones. With this, the violet-haired girl asked Lingzi if she was friends with this wild guy, to which she responded that she wasn't, but she had already come up with a plan to convince Wild to add her. To do that, Lingzi asked her friend to track Wild's ID, and as soon as he enters her live stream, she needed to inform her, which her friend understood. Meanwhile, Lu Chen continued his grind with his minions. 2.5 hours later, Lu Chen had reached level 9. To his surprise, he realized that leveling up to 10 required 100,000 experience points, which seemed insane considering he had just farmed 50,000 experience points to reach level 9. However, when he looked at his stats, it seemed reasonable, as his attack was now over 60, and he had 1150 HP. However, his train of thought was disrupted as he noticed a bright light beside some corpses. Investigating it, he found 15 bottles of healing potions, which made him happy, and it was indeed surprising to find potions dropping in bundles. So he continued to investigate his surroundings and found a trail of potions lined up ahead. And even though it looks like a trap, his greed got the better of him, and so he followed the path, looting all the potions he came across, as he saw the opportunity for a big profit. And as expected, the trail led him to a group of players, and due to his current appearance and his long prefix, they assumed he was the boss known as Zakas, and since they were particularly aiming to defeat Zakas to gain money, just like only Wild did, and secure a level 10 spot in the main city. They immediately went into formation and attacked him. However, Liu Chen didn't even flinch, as he expected this already, since his defense was already at 28, and his opponent was only at level 5, so their attack was only at 23 at best, and the 1 point of damage inflicted was just the game forcibly deducting 1 HP to show that it made contact. With this outcome, the players' morale dropped as they wondered about the kind of defense this beast had. Not only that, but it also had a massive amount of health. However, before their morale could plummet even further, Bai Ryu reassured them, suggesting that the damage they saw might be the minimum damage dealt, and since they had plenty of potions, they could slowly wear the beast down. With these few words, and the belief that they were the strongest, they were easily convinced, and so they continued to attack the beast together. But Liu Chen, on the other hand, remained standing emotionless, unfazed by their attacks, allowing these delusional motherfuckers figure it out for themselves. However, even though a considerable amount of time had passed, it seems like they are still unwilling to admit that their attacks were only dealing 1 damage to him, which didn't make sense to Liu Chen, so he began to wonder if these players were simply stupid. Nonetheless, waiting for them to realize the truth would be a waste of time, and he couldn't keep targeting his own kind either. So a wicked grin appeared on his face as he realized he had to fulfill his role as a monster. Now that he had made up his mind, Liu Chen gave the closest player a piece of his mind, almost killing him, but he wasn't done yet, as Liu Chen decided to give him the other piece. However, before Liu Chen could deliver the final blow, the players began using their potions. Still, they soon realized that their potions weren't helping much, as it only restored 10 points per second, and each had a cooldown of 10 seconds, but they had come this far and were unwilling to retreat. So, they decided to be more careful with their positioning and take turns attacking the beast. To their surprise, as the boss moved, their attacks couldn't even land a hit. Instead, they were the ones receiving damage, creating a bursting effect with every strike they received. With this, they finally realized that winning wasn't possible from the start. So, they made the decision to run, but it was already too late, as Liu Chen had firmly resolved to eliminate them. And not even a moment had passed, Liu Chen had wiped out the group that was attacking him, and it appeared that he was now grinning with delight as he had acquired 27 bottles of potions from just 1 player. So, it seemed like he had just made a fortune once again, and from what he had gathered by observing them, these people must have noticed the declining price of regular maces. So, they decided to hunt for Zakas, but after the lesson he had just taught them, they probably wouldn't dare to try again for at least a few more days. This meant that he could continue grinding for a while and work his way up to level 10. Meanwhile, in the real world, inside the Jiangcheng Science and Technology Department, the group who failed to defeat Liu Chen, whom they had mistaken for Zakas, were conducting a meeting to discuss the recent events, and they seemed to have copium running through their veins, convincing each other that the outcome was fairly normal since the boss's level was 3 levels higher than theirs. So unless they leveled up and acquired stronger equipment, it would be wise to postpone attacking the boss for now. They also recognized that the loss wasn't entirely in vain because they now knew the location of the boss. However, a nagging question lingered in their minds, wondering how did the user named Wild manage to do it, while they were beginning to realize that this Wild player was much stronger than they had initially assumed. Meanwhile, inside the game, Liu Chen was relieved to see that the emails had finally stopped pouring in. There were so many that he wasn't even sure if all the items he had put on the market had been sold, and with the commotion dying down, he easily organized his emails and was pleased to discover that everything had indeed been sold, leaving him with 25,221 yuan in his bank. However, he couldn't celebrate just yet because he still needed to reply to all the people who had messaged him. However, it would take him quite some time to individually respond to each message, so he decided to send a single group email to express his gratitude to everyone for their kind gestures, but he wouldn't be adding any in-game friends, and for those inquiring about equipment, he assured them that he would send an email before consigning equipment to ensure fair competition. With these matters settled, he closed his email tab and resumed his grinding. 8 hours later, excitement filled Liu Chen as he finally reached level 10. His continuous grinding had paid off, and he had also acquired 28 maces, 1 shoulder pad, 1 vest, and a handful of upgrade materials, and looking at his attributes, it became evident that the 100,000 experience points were worth it, as it resulted in a qualitative change in his abilities. But now that he had reached level 10, curiosity filled his mind, as he wondered if there were any new surprises awaiting him at the reputation store. So, without delay, he opened the store. To his surprise, he discovered 3 new options in the reputation store. Intrigued, he first explored the skin tab, and it turned out to be exactly as described. He could use 1,000 points to change his appearance, which he considered this feature somewhat useless at first. So he moved on to the bloodline tab, which instantly left him astonished. By choosing this enhancement, he could obtain the bloodline of creatures from the same species after defeating a sufficient number of them. And bloodlines were a significant game changer, as they granted him access to unique talents inherent to his species, and its quality can be improved as well, just like what he did for his werewolf bloodline. But what was even more intriguing about this enhancement was it allows him to acquire the appearance and attack methods of other species, provided he obtained their skins. This excited him greatly, as it meant he could potentially transform into various wild monsters or even into a human being, which was a fantastic news. However, he couldn't make this decision just yet because he hadn't finished reading all the tab descriptions. So, he proceeded to the 3rd tab called Mental Technique, where he can find enhancement that will grant the user the 4th attribute known as Mana. This attribute would enable him to use magical attacks and defenses, and there were 2 options available. The first was the low-level Monster Meditation, which unlocked mana for 1,000 points, and the other, also requiring 1,000 points to unlock, the yellow-level Spell Induction, allowing the user to analyze yellow-level spells used by wild monsters after defeating them. Now that Liu Chen had read all of their descriptions, he hoped to obtain all of them since they all seemed great. However, due to limited resources, he had to choose wisely, so he decided to start with Monster Meditation, which allowed him to gain 1 mana point for every minute of meditation. With this decision made, he began his meditation, and there were 3 main ways to obtain mana in the game: through killing wild monsters, meditating online, and taking potions. While meditating and training, he couldn't perform any other operations, including transactions. This was a bit of a hassle for Liu Chen, so he decided to meditate for another time. And having spent a long time in the game already, he planned to log out. But before doing so, as he usually did, he decided to list all his loot for trade and auction. Afterward, he checked out the live stream to see what other players were up to. And since Lingji was specifically waiting for Liu Chen to join her stream, she made sure to track his anonymous ID from the previous stream. So the moment she saw his anonymous ID, she launched her scheme to add Liu Chen as a friend, starting a raffle, calling it a way to give back to her fans, in which she would choose a random audience member from her room and gift them a mace. To Liu Chen's surprise, she specifically gave this gift to him. This unexpected turn of events left Liu Chen amazed since he hadn't been in her live stream for long, yet he had already won something. And before he could take any action, Lingji contacted him immediately, requesting his account ID so she could add him as a friend and send him her prize. However, he refused and suggested she give it to someone else instead, but she proved to be persistent, as she isn't taking no for an answer. 3 minutes later, they were still engaged in an argument, and Lingji persisted and made another attempt to persuade Liu Chen to accept her gift, suggesting that he consider it a favor to her, and the only way he could convince her otherwise was to show her that he already had a mace with him. To prove it, she asked him to take a screenshot while holding it. However, Liu Chen understood that his current intimidating appearance, marked by a long prefix, wielding a werewolf mace, and accompanied by 3 idiots, might terrify others, so accepting Lingji's gift appeared to be the most sensible choice. Besides, Lingji had previously been quite supportive of him, especially when dealing with haters, so as a gesture of goodwill, he agreed to her proposal and accepted her friend request, thereby revealing his true in-game name to her, in which Lingji pretended to be surprised to conceal the fact that she had recognized him from the beginning. But since Liu Chen did her a favor, she took the opportunity to really express her gratitude, informing him about the poisonous fog forest that leads to the level 10 main city, which had just opened up. With this, Liu Chen considered it impolite to delete someone as a friend, right after receiving a gift, so he decided to let it be, and just head to the poisonous forest. As Lingji had recommended in the previous chapter, some individuals were trash-talking Lu Chen out of jealousy after Lingji complimented him. Unexpectedly, Lingji defended Lu Chen, which prompted him to give her a tip as thanks. With this, Lingji realized that Lu Chen was watching her stream, so she devised a plan to add him as an in-game friend. Meanwhile, Lu Chen continued his daily grind when he noticed a unique and powerful-looking boss. Unlike any beast he had encountered before, this boss was accompanied by 10 special-ranked underlings, and Lu Chen knew he couldn't handle this mini-boss alone. To increase his odds of winning, he opened the reputation store and purchased a Legion recruitment order. This order allowed him to recruit creatures he defeated and upgrade them using reputation points. With each upgrade, he could add one subordinate to his roster. So, he converted his materials to upgrade it to level 3, recruiting 3 more allies. Together, they defeated Zakas and his underlings, earning Lu Chen a green level 5 mace. Since this mace was powerful, Lu Chen decided not to sell it immediately. Instead, he planned to wait for Zakas to respawn and defeat him again to obtain another mace. While waiting, he ordered his subordinates to farm beasts, effectively creating an auto-farming mechanic that allowed him to level up even while he slept. With this, he doubled his farming rate, accumulating a wealth of equipment and reaching level 10 within a few hours, which unlocked new items in the reputation store, including skin, bloodline, and mental technique options. Given his limited resources, he initially chose to purchase the mental technique known as Monster Meditation, which would unlock the 4th attribute, Mana. As he was about to log out, he decided to check Lingji's live stream to see what the human players were up to. Unbeknownst to him, Lingji was eagerly waiting for his arrival. As soon as she saw his ID pop up on her stream, she executed her plan to accept his friend request. Due to her previous kindness, Lu Chen decided to accept her as a friend, which made her delighted. To express her gratitude, Lingji shared a helpful tip with Lu Chen. She informed him about the poisonous fog forest, which led to the level 10 main city and had just opened. With this new information, Lu Chen decided to continue playing and head to the poisonous forest as Lingji had recommended. Now on to the next part. Lu Chen arrived at the poison mist forest, where a tablet greets him in the entrance, stating that this is the only way to the level 10 main city, which is also home to numerous powerful creatures. Throughout history, only 1 out of every 10 people could escape from this place due to the challenging battles and hindered visibility caused by the poisonous mist. It was recommended not to get too obsessed with fighting here and to escape as quickly as possible. However, this only made Lu Chen excited as he looks forward in meeting these so-called monsters and test their strength. Fortunately, he didn't have to wait long, as poisonous arachne-type monsters descended from the treetops, preparing to attack him in groups. And since these monsters had high levels, Lu Chen took the battle seriously. He engaged the strongest monster while his subordinates dealt with its minions. To his surprise, as the battle goes on, he received a 5-second poison debuff, but fortunately, its effects weren't too powerful, reducing his health by only 20 points per second. With this, Lu Chen continued his tactic, and within just 3 minutes, he successfully defeated the elite monster and its minions. This victory rewarded him with a total of 500 experience points, 2 3-star upgrades, and 2 mana, which greatly pleased Lu Chen. Unexpectedly, another system interface popped up, informing him that the elite monster had dropped a white level 6 silk braces, and since these braces provided 6 defense and 3 poison resistance, he instantly spent reputation points to open the 4th equipment slot and equip the silk braces. However, it appeared that Lu Chen couldn't catch a break in this place, as another wave of monsters appeared above him, poised to attack. After 5 minutes of intense battle, Lu Chen realized that this hellish place was too challenging. 3 of his subordinates hadn't even had time to recover their health, and none of them were left alive. Additionally, he was exhausted from playing the game for hours. With all these factors in mind, Lu Chen decided to log off immediately. Now that he was out of the game, he stretched his body since he had been playing for too long. To his surprise, he realized that he could also lift his other arm, which was impossible before. This filled him with excitement as he realized that the promises of the company were real. Although he couldn't move his fingers much, this was a sign of improvement. So, he called his stepsister and asked her when she was going home, mentioning that he had a surprise for her. This intrigued Louis, as it had been a long time since she had heard brother be this enthusiastic about something, so she looked forward to going home as soon as she could. However, she couldn't do so right now because she would be working overtime to level up, as the world of the Empyrean God Realm proved to be more challenging than expected, and their boss had even bought each of them a mace, so they needed to respond in kind by working hard before the main city opened. Then she said goodbye, ended the call, and continued her work, while Lucien still had a smile on his face, as he looked forward to tomorrow. When Louis comes back, he might regain his physical capabilities like he used to, and that was something he eagerly anticipated. And so, when the next day arrived, Lucien logged straight into the game, engaging in an intense fight with the spider. However, now he was more confident in dealing with these creatures, having learned from his past mistakes. He was prepared to face the monsters that spawned as soon as the elite spider died. But to his surprise, the number of monsters had doubled compared to his previous encounter. At this moment, he knew he was in trouble. Then another one of his subordinates died, which shocked him beyond belief. And not long after, all of his subordinates had perished. With this turn of events, he was overwhelmed by rage, and so he decided to use his potions and confront these motherfuckers head on. 10 minutes later, after he had vanquished the wave of monsters, Lucien left the poison mist forest with a heavy heart, still grieving over the loss of his new subordinates. However, he understood that crying wouldn't change anything, and Zakas is about to respawn, so it was the perfect time for him to borrow 3 more idiots from him. But this time, he plans to spend his reputation to open additional equipment slots for them, allowing them to wear poison resistance gear and enhance their fighting capabilities gradually. The next day, Lucien and his newfound subordinates entered the poisonous mist forest, engaging in fierce battles with spiders like they owned them money, and Lucien was more confident that his subordinates would survive this time, thanks to the improvements in their quality and their poison resistance of 10, which helped stabilize their performance. However, things didn't go as smoothly as Lucien expected, as another elite monster appeared, and its level was higher than the previous ones he had encountered. However, Lucien is not a bitch either, so he faced the level 10 elite monster head-on while his subordinates took care of its minions. This tactic, though time-consuming, eventually paid off. After half an hour of intense battle, they finally defeated the elite monster, and the monster's drop was nothing short of impressive. In addition to the usual rewards like experience points and 3-star upgrades, it yielded a white-grade silk gauntlets that provided 5 points of poison resistance and a green-grade spider fang necklace, which added 10 poison damage to Lucien's attacks. This also completed the 3 pieces needed to activate the set bonus, reducing poison debuff time by half and providing an additional 5 points of poison resistance. So even though selling these items could fetch him a good amount of money, Lucien decided it was more beneficial to equip them now. With this, he can now defeat the elite monsters quite easily. And just like before, not even a minute had passed, the elite monsters spawned again. Now, it's no wonder to Lucien that the stone tablet says 1 out of 10 can survive this place. However, this predicament brought a smile to his face, as this was exactly what he had been looking for. And so, he swings his huge and hard rod onto the spider lady in front of him, and beat the living daylights out of it. A few hours later, he had finished grinding the spider lady, and so he left the poisonous mist forest with his subordinates still alive and well. Not only that, but he had now become a werewolf commander. However, his prefix had grown longer, which initially bothered him, but he decided to pay it no mind. After all, he had achieved a 3-star quality upgrade, and looking at his stats, he was quite content, as his attack had increased to 124, his health points were at 2230, and his mana had also risen to 13, making him one hell of a unit. After that, he headed to the reputation store. To his surprise, due to the number of poison spiders he had killed, he could unlock the poisonous spider bloodline with just 1000 reputation points, and seeing that it could boost his poison damage and increase his movement speed, he bought it without hesitation. Then, he leveled it up to 3, just like his werewolf bloodline. With this upgrade, he could now deal 2.5% damage to the target's total health every second for 5 seconds, and his movement speed increased by 19%. But what surprised him even more was that integrating the new bloodline had also altered his appearance, as he had transformed into an abomination that could terrify even the most experienced monster hunter, with the upper body of a werewolf and the massive dump truck of a spider. Still, he ain't complaining though, since he was much faster than before, so it seems like the system really wanted him to acquire all the skins in the reputation store, but he had just spent all his reputation points, so he had no choice but to continue playing even though he was hungry. Luckily, he could still eat in real life as he played this game. However, before he resumed his grind, his attention was drawn to the world chat, where players were talking shit about him, all because he hasn't been selling maces much in the past few days, so they assumed that the others finally caught up to him, and now he is just a loser like them. But Luchin doesn't seem to mind this kind of provocation, and didn't engage with these fools, since he is a mature individual, and has better things to do. Furthermore, the graded equipment he had put in the auction had sold for over 10,000 yuan, more than the regular maces he had sold. This made him more profitable than before, and he had spent the entire day grinding spiders, amassing numerous pieces of equipment. Even his subordinates now had full sets of poison-resistant gear, a total of 4 sets if he included himself. Additionally, he had 8 extra pieces of wrist and leg guards to sell, but since players hadn't arrived at the poisonous mist forest yet, he decided to hold off on selling them, as they wouldn't be worth much to players at the moment. Unexpectedly, as he was looking through the chat, he noticed that these trolls are currently planning to hunt Zakas, because they heard that Feng Lingji is also searching for Zakas. With this, Luchin decided to meet these trolls in person, and teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. So, as soon as they had joined Feng Lingji and were about to attack Zakas, Luchin charged into the fray like a bull, shouting at Zakas to hold on because he was going to save him. This sudden appearance terrified the players, as they were convinced that he was an ally of Zakas. However, this was the first time they had encountered a beast like this, and considering their current circumstances, they concluded that Zakas somewhat had a chance to summon an ally if its health dropped below 30%. But since they could handle Zakas with their numbers, and the fact that this hybrid werewolf is only a summon of Zakas, they believed it wouldn't be any stronger than him, and its appearance is only to scare them away, and so they stood their ground, and raised their weapons. And with this newfound confidence, one of the players immediately went to attack the hybrid werewolf, but to their surprise, it only managed to deal 1 point of damage.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And looking at its health, they began doubting their eyes, questioning if they saw it right, as it was the first time they had seen a monster with over 2,000 health points, and its defense isn't to be taken lightly either. However, before their morale could drop, one player in the group assumed that the purpose of this beast was just to hold back players, and its attack is just light as a feather, so there was no reason to panic, which instantly convinced the others, since it is a reasonable conclusion after all. So they all decided to ignore this hybrid beast, and just focus on attacking Zakas. However, Luchin is on demon time right now, and he is not going to let these trash talkers do what they want without catching a fade from him. So he immediately showcased his power in front of them, killing the nearest player in an instant, shocking everyone who witnessed it, and seeing them frozen in fear. Luchin took the opportunity to violate them, sending the players flying with his every swing. With this, the players realized that they couldn't win this fight. Not only that, this hybrid beast attacks inflicted a potent poison debuff that their potions couldn't keep up, and so surviving isn't an option either. With this, they realized that the hybrid werewolf was the true threat, and so panic spread among the players, causing them to abandon their assault on Zakas and attempt a hasty retreat. However, Luchin had no intention of letting them escape, since it was imperative for the success of his plan that he eliminate every last one of them. This included even Lingji, whom he had recently befriended. And in mere moments, Luchin had dispatched every player, a fact that filled him with immense satisfaction, as he made a lot of money once again. And now that the coast is clear, he instructed his subordinates to retrieve the potions dropped by the defeated players. And while they diligently carried out this task, Luchin decided to visit Lingji's live stream to observe what the other players were doing. As Luchin observed the aftermath of the battle on Lingji's live stream, it was evident that the defeated players were devastated by their loss. The elite group of 40 had been utterly wiped out in a matter of minutes, leaving them demoralized. Some even decided to log off the game and take a break, while others approached Lingji, imploring her to contact her friend Only I'm Wild, the only player who had successfully defeated Zakas. And so these players believed that Wild might hold the key to defeat Zakas, and they thought Lingji's charm could persuade him to reveal the secret, to which Lingji initially hesitated, as she feared it might cost Wild some of his earnings. However, the audacity of these players knows no bound, as they don't care about Wild's interest, and so they just continued to pester Lingji, forcing her to follow their demands. And seeing that they aren't going to take no for an answer, Lingji had no choice but to approach Wild for the information. But little did they know, this situation aligned perfectly with Lu Chen's plan. By sharing his knowledge with Lingji, and indirectly with the other players, he not only put them in his debt, but also bolstered his reputation as a trustworthy source of information, and this would allow him to sell his poison mist set at a higher price and possibly start selling it earlier than he had initially planned. And so, Lu Chen provided her with the necessary information in defeating Zakas, and convincing her that they didn't need to worry much about the hybrid monster, since it didn't appear every time, to which Lingji was delighted and thanked him enthusiastically for the guidance. Now that was settled, and his subordinates completely looted everything, he decided to kill Zakas. Previous chapter, Lu Chen entered the poisonous mist forest. However, the monster respawn rate there was faster than he expected, leaving no time for his subordinates to recover. With the poison in the air causing debuffs, it was only a matter of time before Lu Chen's subordinates died. In response, he had to leave the forest and devise another plan. Luckily, he had acquired enough equipment with poison resistance embedded in it. So, Lu Chen recruited another batch of werewolves and resumed his grinding in the poisonous mist forest. In just a few days, he had obtained numerous items and achieved a 3-star quality upgrade that promoted him to a werewolf commander. And due to the number of poisonous spiders he had killed, the bloodline of the spider became available in the reputation store, which Lu Chen didn't hesitate to unlock it and level it up to 3, enhancing his normal attack with poison damage, and increased his movement speed by 19%. To his surprise, it also transformed him into a hybrid werewolf with the spider's huge cheeks. Nevertheless, he ain't complaining, as he was now more nimble than before. But before he could resume his grind, Lu Chen took the opportunity to visit other players and teach his haters a lesson they wouldn't forget, by violating them, and at the same time, preventing them from killing Zakas, which instantly devastated the players, leaving them no choice but to turn to Only I'm Wild for answers. This outcome delighted Lu Chen, as it was part of his plan to establish himself as a trustworthy source of information. This would allow him to sell his items at higher prices and possibly start selling them earlier than planned. So, he promptly provided them with the necessary information, which they appreciated. With that settled, he continued to hunt Zakas once more. Now on to the next part. The next day arrived. Lu Chen and his gang ventured deeper into the poison mist forest, and since their equipment sets were almost complete, they decided to explore further. To his surprise, the scenery became more beautiful as they approached the center of the forest, as the lavender aesthetic of the poison mixed with the tall green bamboo trees created a natural and captivating view, which Lu Chen appreciated. However, this also meant that the monsters here were different. Therefore, he proceeded with caution, and just as he expected, a snake monster appeared in front of them, but he was still taken aback, as the quantity of the snakes was more than the spiders he encountered before. In response, he commanded the 3 idiots to attack first to assess the situation, which they didn't hesitate to follow, engaging with the massive snake. And as he observed their battle, Lu Chen was surprised to see that his subordinates were still taking poison damage, despite wearing suits with a poison resistance of 19. So it became evident that the opponent's poison attack had a strength of 20, the same as the level 9 elite spider woman. With this realization, Lu Chen finally understood the true danger of this place. 10 minutes later, the number of snakes kept increasing. With this, Lu Chen began to wonder if this game intended to torture players with the sheer volume of these creatures. However, this game wasn't going to outmatch him, since he was prepared for a lengthy battle, as he had already collected enough potions, so he distributed 80 bottles to each of his subordinates. With this ample supply of potions, they continued battling without interruption for 2 hours, and the only reason he temporarily halted his grind was that he needed to get some sleep. So after the morning sun had risen, Luchin immediately put on his VR helmet again and started playing. However, as the game loaded, he planned to stop hunting snakes and find an easier way to deal with them first. To his surprise, when the game fully rendered, he noticed that his subordinates were still in the midst of a battle with the snakes. This was unexpected, as he thought they should have disappeared the moment he logged out. Not only that, but the monsters were still spawning, which was odd, so he decided to investigate more closely. And to his shock, he discovered that his subordinates had already leveled up to 9. With this, he realized that the 3 idiots took turns resting and continued to spawn monsters, and since he wasn't around, all the experience they obtained was shared among themselves, allowing them to level up while he was asleep. This discovery instantly made his eyes sparkle with excitement, since he had always been worried about his underlings not being able to catch up to his level, because no matter how much they grinded, the experience points were always set to be distributed to him, and dividing it with them would slow down his leveling speed. However, now that he knows that they could continue grinding while he was offline, he didn't have to worry anymore. Furthermore, the number of pythons he had killed was sufficient to unlock its bloodline in the store. Initially, the 2,000 reputation point price made Luchin hesitate. However, his decision changed when he noticed that this bloodline had a unique talent, as it could increase his poison damage by 10% every time the target moved 1 step. This effect lasted for 7 steps, with a maximum duration of 60 seconds. Upon seeing this incredible ability, Luchin didn't waste any time and promptly purchased it. He then upgraded it to level 2, adding 10 points of poison attack, enhancing it to 68, and it automatically synergized with the snake's talent and his spider talent. Now his 2.5% damage over time can be enhanced every step his target makes. So even though he looks like a hideous monster that only a mother could love, he was contented since his power level had significantly grown. And with this newfound power, even the snakes that were once a struggle for him were no longer a threat, as his overall damage had doubled due to the new poison effect, and this brought a broad smile to his face. So, he excitedly ordered his underlings to attack as he made plans to clear this map in a single day. And just as he expected, with every swing of his weapon, Luchin asserted his dominance over the enormous pythons, and it didn't take long for him to kill every one of them, and so he was able to finally get to the center of the forest. However, his excited expression shifted abruptly when he noticed the level 12 boss, Avenhill, the sovereign of this nightmarish realm. Avenhill was a sinister snake-like lady with a gaze so intense it seemed capable of death itself.
Sir, grab me that specimen.
But sir, we don't even know what it is.
Grab me that specimen.
And she was a hybrid creature with spider legs protruding from her back. But despite its intimidating appearance, Luchin's fear transformed into curiosity as he assumed this formidable monster must drop valuable loot. Furthermore, the absence of other monsters around Avenhill added to his anticipation, and with his 3 subordinates accompanying him, he felt confident that they could defeat her in a single attempt, and so he excitedly charged to smash it. But to their surprise, Avenhill was just cunningly waiting for them to draw near, as she was the first to unleash an attack, ensnaring them in spider-like silk. Still, Luchin promptly broke free, but it became apparent that his 3 subordinates lacked the attack power necessary to break the restraints. This left Luchin with no choice but to confront Avenhill alone. However, battling her wasn't as straightforward as he had anticipated. Her damage output slightly exceeded his own, and she boasted over 4,000 health points with remarkably swift regeneration. Unexpectedly, she also inflicted him with another debuff, reducing both his movement and attack speed by 10%. With this, Luchin realized how terrifying Avenhill was. Other players would surely meet their demise against her. Fortunately, Luchin wasn't like other players, as he had merged with the spider bloodline. This endowed him with the enhanced movement speed needed to maintain distance from Avenhill, while his talent-enhanced poison skill continued to chip away at her health. Moreover, his subordinates had managed to free themselves from their constraints, making it easier to contend with this formidable boss. But Avenhill had surprised them yet again, as she revealed that her crowd control skill had a short cooldown, leaving Luchin with no alternative but to rely on himself. So he focused on inflicting damage over time as he skillfully evaded her attacks, gradually wearing her down. With this tactic, he He spent about half an hour battling the formidable boss Avanhill, but his efforts weren't in vain, as Avanhill dropped 2 4-star materials, 5 pieces of equipment, including a green helmet and a blue armor. This put a big smile on Liu Chen's face. When he examined the blue armor named Avanhill's Guardian, he was surprised to find that it provided the wearer with an additional 21 points of physical defense, 10 points of poison resistance, and substantial stat boosts. But what amazed him even more was that it has its own passive skill, which reduced the attacker's movement and attack speed by 10%. With this insane attribute, it undoubtedly would make him rich if he chose to sell it. However, he decided it would be better to equip it to make his hunting easier. Besides, he knew he could obtain another armor if he hunted Avanhill again, even though its respawn rate might be somewhat lengthy, similar to Zaka's, who had an 8-hour respawn time. But to his surprise, it only took about half an hour for Avanhill to respawn, much faster than Zaka's refresh rate. With this, Liu Chen concluded that normal elite monsters like Zaka's had such long refresh rates to encourage players to search for it. However, Avanhill, as a boss within the poisonous forest, had a faster respawn rate intended to prevent players from entering the main city. However, this situation favored Liu Chen, as he could obtain more of Avanhill's equipment, and with his determination, he clapped Avanhill for 10 hours straight, acquiring 17 sets of poisonous mist gear, 19 pieces of Avanhill's Guardian armor, 11 exquisite spider silk headgear, and 19 4-star materials. And now that he had a complete set of equipment, he decided to open his 8 slots. Even though it cost 4,000 reputation points, it was a worthwhile investment, considering the high-quality helmet with 11 points of physical defense and several additional stats. And with all the hardships he had to endure in the poisonous forest, it was time for him to proceed to the next step, and that is to reward himself by making a fortune. To do this, he needed to check what the other players were up to first. As expected, many players were frustrated due to the challenges of the poisonous fog forest, expressing their discontent about the game's difficulty. However, no one seemed to have mentioned Avanhill's name, indicating that no players had reached the 3rd level yet. And since they had all passed the 1st level without acquiring any items, this meant that Liu Chen's equipment would likely be in higher demand than he had anticipated. With this, he proceeded to the next step of his plan, and that is to cause a sensation and advertise his items, and that will be easily accomplished by visiting Feng Lingji's live stream. So he did just that, and as expected, Feng Lingji was also facing difficulties in the poisonous forest, which had forced her to teleport back to the newbie village for safety. Despite being in a safer zone, she was still stressed out because she hadn't managed to obtain a single piece of equipment, even though she had specifically been hunting spiders, hoping to find some poison-resistant gear. And having a small team like theirs isn't helping much either, so she feels uncertain about what to do next. While her chat community didn't want to see her like this, so they suggested that she should message Wild to inquire about obtaining equipment, since she is the only one who has him as a friend in the entire gaming community, while some chat members says otherwise, as they were skeptical if he has any equipment to sell at all, since he hasn't been selling for a long time. Still, Lingji doesn't have any other ideas, so she turned to Wild and asked if he had any extra poison-resistant equipment available for sale. She was willing to buy it if he did. To her surprise, Wild didn't disappoint, as he responded promptly, confirming that he had a complete set of this gear. This revelation surprised not only Lingji but also her viewers. They were even more astonished when Wild indicated that he had multiple sets available. This caused quite a stir in the game because it was nearly impossible for someone to possess more than one complete set, and so many players suspected he was bluffing. Even Lingji had some doubts as well, but she decided to proceed with the transaction and asked to buy 3 sets. To everyone's amazement, Wild promptly sold them to her. With this, Lingji couldn't believe how easily she had acquired these sets, and if it weren't for her live stream, no one would believe her how she got it. With the successful transaction completed, Lingji excitedly equipped her newly acquired armor and expressed her gratitude to Wild for his generosity. Thanks to this new gear, she felt confident about navigating the dangerous forest. But the shock wasn't limited to her, as her chat was astounded as well. They were even willing to pay up to 15,000 yuan for such items. And just as Liu Chen had planned, his inbox was flooded with emails from potential buyers. This overwhelming response brought a smile to Lu Chen's face. However, he had limited equipment to sell, so to ensure fairness to everyone, he decided to hold a personal auction in the auction area tonight at 10, which was just 20 minutes away. And just like that, the anticipated moment arrived. The auction house buzzed with anticipation as a diverse crowd of players gathered, all eager to secure their own poison-resistant gear. And right at the center of this bustling scene was a striking woman, poised to assume the role of the event's auctioneer. Yet behind this facade, one would be surprised to discover that this captivating lady was none other than Lu Chen himself, wearing an uncharacteristic yet necessary disguise. And although the experience of cross-dressing was far from his comfort zone, he willingly embraced it, all in the name of money, with a mix of excitement and determination. And so he began the auction. Her first offering consisted of 3 pieces of spider silk headgear. The initial bid stood at a reasonable 2,000 yuan, and participants could increase their offers by a minimum of 200 yuan with each bid. And as the crowd examined the item's statistics, their curiosity quickly turned into fascination, as the gear's exceptional usefulness left them in amazement, and many among them hadn't encountered such a remarkable weapon before, a testament to Wild's reputation for delivering unique and remarkable items. With this, the bid reached an impressive 9,800 yuan, which sent waves of excitement through Lu Chen, as it was the first time he had sold an item for such a high price. And this was only a single helmet, so his anticipation grew for what the full armor set might fetch, as it seems like a fortune was well within reach. And since the crowd couldn't wait any longer, Lu Chen moved swiftly to the next item, the one they had all been eagerly awaiting, the Poison Mist set. And to everyone's delight, he had 3 complete sets ready for auction, all to be sold in a single session. And the starting bid for this is 15,000, with a minimum increase of 2,000. This surprising turn of events caught everyone off guard, since they hadn't anticipated Wild selling these sets as a bundle, as it hinted that there might be more in stock, but the chance to obtain even a single set was too precious to let it slip by. So the players immediately began bidding eagerly, rapidly driving the price up to 45,000 yuan, leaving Lu Chen delighted as he watched these high spenders invest in his items. In the end, it was sold to bidder number 3. After that, Lu Chen started the second batch. To everyone's surprise, the same bidder swiftly raised the stakes to 45,000 yuan once more, trying to establish a monopoly. However, other businessmen in the audience were not keen on allowing this, especially considering the fact that there is 3 novice village merged in the level 10 main city that can be influenced by the first group who arrived there. And so, the competition raged on, and the price quickly shot up to 50,000 yuan, further fueling Lu Chen's excitement. But the fact that he still had another batch to sell, he reserved his celebration for later and promptly proceeded to auction the final set. This time, it consisted of 5 sets packaged together, prompting the starting bid to be set at 25,000 yuan. Still, the players showed no hesitation in driving up the price. With this being their last chance, they pushed their bids to the limits. Yet the room fell into silence as soon as they witnessed one audacious bidder place an astonishing offer of 90,000 yuan. With this, the other players could only curse as their chance to farm easily slipped through their fingers, so they were about to leave the place with heavy hearts. But before they could do that, since the auction was very successful, Lu Chen decided to give them a free tip. He informed them about another terrifying level beyond the snake tide, which left the players shocked, as they had already struggled with the snakes. So hearing about an even more challenging level made them skeptical. But this was to be expected, and so Lu Chen decided to just show them a proof, another piece of equipment from that level, that can determine whether they break through the forest. The blue-grade armor of Avonhill, seeing this item for themselves, opened their eyes in surprise, as it was the first blue item in the entire server, and it also had a unique skill. So everyone prepared their bank account to snatch this equipment, and seeing that the players couldn't wait any longer, Lu Chen auctions it in batches of 3, and humbly started the bid at 15,000, and as expected, the bidding price instantaneously skyrocketed, as they believed it was a valuable item, and so the bids reached 60,000 at the first batch, 65,000 for another, and 63,000 for the final one. So even if it took more than an hour to sell everything, Lu Chen was more than ecstatic with the results. as he had amassed a total of 397,980 yuan. With this substantial amount in hand and his arm fully healed, along with some returning sensation in his leg, he pondered the idea of purchasing a house. However, he recognized that spending his entire wealth all at once wouldn't be a smart decision. So, he resolved to continue saving until he had a bit more before making such a significant investment. But now that he was alone, he realized he had sold a significant amount of equipment at once. This made him wonder if someone else might break through the forest and get ahead of him. However, he decided not to be bothered by it, as he knew there would be more opportunities to find valuable equipment in the future, and he needed to sleep to be in optimal condition for the next day. And so he did just that. Meanwhile, inside the game, the players that have bought a gear from Wild was too excited to sleep, and so they gathered inside the forest and joined their forces to conquer and get out of this place to get to the main city. And even though a few of them died in the process, they still continued, pushing through the horde of spider onto the tides of snakes. They have continued this until it was almost 5 in the morning, and with their determination, they have finally managed to pass through the snakes. And it seemed like Lingxi's group is the first one that have arrived this far, other than Wild. But just like what Wild had told them, Avanhill was there to greet them with her devilish stare. And since only Wild had killed this boss all on his own, everyone assumed that their chances of defeating her were higher, and the fact that they can go to the main city after defeating her made them excited. But their enthusiasm dwindled rapidly as Avanhill leaped towards them with alarming speed, catching them off guard. And so it didn't take long for Avanhill to entangle them in her web. With this, they were left wondering how Wild had managed to conquer such a beast. However, they didn't have time to dwell on such trivial matters, as they realized that their efforts of grinding for a whole night was all in vain, dying instantly from Avanhill. A few moments later, the sun had completely risen, and so Luchin as well, and he has already put his VR headgear to play again. But now he made the decision that it was time for them to leave the novice area. But before that, it would be a waste to not learn Avanhill's field control. So he purchased the yellow level spell inductions for the cost of 1,000 reputation points, which he found to be a reasonable investment. To his surprise, when he opened the reputation store, he discovered that the price had doubled, but fighting with the system wouldn't get him anywhere. So, he proceeded with the purchase. After acquiring the spell induction, he promptly used it on Avanhill to gain her skill, the Silk Entanglement. This skill allows the user to employ spider silk and wrap it around the target, while consuming 1 mana per second, and he can entangle a maximum of 10 targets. However, for non-spider species, it required an extra portion of tough spider silk for each target they entangled. Thankfully, Luchin had wisely accumulated a considerable stockpile of spider silk in advance. And now that he had successfully acquired the skill, he felt there was no longer any reason for him to linger in the novice area. Therefore, Luchin made the immediate decision to depart. 10 minutes later, they reached a crossroad, with one path leading to the level 10 main city, and the other is leading to the Mountains of Beasts. And due to Luchen's current status, heading to the main city seemed unwise. Therefore, he made the decision to explore the 100 Beast Mountain first. To his surprise, this path led to a colossal mountain, indicating the beasts here were equally enormous. Despite the looming challenges, Luchin had no other immediate options, so he pressed on with his 3 previous chapter. Luchin defeated the snakes, and so he went to the next area of the Mist Forest. To his surprise, he was greeted by the devilish eyes of Avanhill, the boss of the Mist Forest. But because Luchin is all about that grind, he didn't cower away in grinding the boss, giving him a ton of loots, even a blue-grade armor. And due to Avanhill's rapid respawn rate, Luchin repeated this process until he was satisfied with the amount of equipment he had acquired. Afterward, he approached Lingxi to promote his items, which was really effective as he received a ton of emails inquiring him about his items. However, he had limited stocks of it, so to make things fair, Luchin decided to hold an auction, which everyone attended, as this was their opportunity to get easily an equipment with a poison resistance on it. With this, Luchin gained almost 400,000 yuan, leaving Luchin ecstatic. Moreover, as his hands healed and the sensation in his legs returned, he was eager to resume his grinding endeavors. But since he no longer required drops from the Poison Mist Forest, He made the decision to venture into the next area, but before embarking on this new adventure, he invested in the yellow level spell induction to copy Avonhill's crowd control skill, the Spider Silk Bind. With this skill in his repertoire, Luchin felt well prepared for the challenges of the next area. But since he was still a beast, it wasn't smart to go to the level 10 main city. Therefore, he decides to go to the 100 Beast Mountains instead. Now on to the next part. Luchin had finally made his way into the mountains, where he encountered a diverse array of creatures, including agile wolves, high-attack tigers, and thick-skinned bears. And despite their decent attributes, none of them seemed suitable for recruitment in Luchin's eyes. This prompted him to venture further into the mountains. To his surprise, the area he entered was known as Chaos Burial Hill, and its eerie ambience sent shivers down his spine. However, this uniqueness suggested the possibility of encountering special creatures, instantly sparking his curiosity. However, rushing into an unknown place isn't a wise choice, and therefore Luchin decided to conduct an investigation first. Examining a nearby tablet, which provided crucial information, it revealed that the area was a level 20 zone, and there were lingering spirits wandering around, searching for their lost heads. And with his character surpassing level 11, his newbie protection is now gone, so a warning emphasized the need for caution when entering this mysterious location. And now that it was clarified to him, he cautiously ventured into this mysterious place. To his surprise, the moment he stepped inside, monsters emerged from the ground to greet him. And not only did these creatures have a remarkably high level, but they were also exceptionally hostile to weak-ass individuals like Luchin and his group, as it wasted no time in hurling fiery skulls, which not only inflicted terrifying damage but also had a penetrating effect, passing through all of Luchin's subordinates. However, this just intrigued Luchin more than it frightened him, as this monster was precisely the kind of subordinate he needed. But the Chaos Burial Hill was not a playground that will just let them do what they want, as a swarm of monsters appeared, and was more than ready to clap them up. And so Luchin quickly decided that a tactical retreat was in order. But unfortunately for them, these monsters wouldn't allow some weak-ass mofo like them to just casually disturb their sleep like that, and so they made sure to give them some fade that they deserve. But thanks to the damage reduction of their equipments, all of them had successfully survived and escaped the place. But now that they have found out that these monsters were too strong, that facing them all at once was impossible, Luchin instructed his subordinates to stay near the entrance while he took the bold step of luring one of the monsters out. And this was also the perfect opportunity to test his newly acquired skill, the Spider Silk Bind. 2 minutes later, after a bit of a struggle, he successfully lured the monster towards him. And so with a quick gesture, he tries to activate his Spider Silk Bind skill. However, much to his surprise, instead of the skill activating from his hand, a fountain of spider juice erupted from beneath him, glazing the monster girl with his white sticky bind. 10 minutes later. Wait a damn minute.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No, 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 no.
But I digress. After 10 minutes of this intense unloading of his skills, the Stygian nymph finally is now willing to accept his recruitment. But due to the recruitment rules, her level was adjusted to match his. Nevertheless, her attributes remained formidable, boasting significant attack power. Moreover, with her undead bloodline, she possessed an ability to reduce the physical defense of surrounding enemies by 10%. This capability brought a delighted grin to Luchin's face, and so without hesitations, he upgraded his Legion recruitment order to level 5 to recruit one more subordinate. And with 15 minutes more, he successfully acquired his 5th subordinate. This accomplishment triggered a hidden quest named A Place to Settle. The quest required him to expel an elite wild creature with King in its name from the beast's mountain range and obtain his own territory. Completion of this quest would grant him the right to use the area and earn the title Fearless and Daring, which Luchin found this opportunity appealing. However, he believed it was wise to choose a higher level area to ensure other players wouldn't easily wander on his territory. With this in mind, he set his sights on the tallest mountain within the beast's mountain range, known as Guanyin Peak, as he remembered that a level 25 white-striped Tiger King resided there, making it an ideal location for his new territory. and so he promptly engaged the white-striped Tiger King, a creature with an imposing presence. Fortunately, it didn't have any minions with it, which seemed to make the battle more manageable, and so he chose to confront it head-on while positioning his subordinates at the rear for ranged attacks. This tactic, although challenging, allowed them to coordinate effectively, and so even though the boss was fast, and its attacks were devastating that Liu Chen's HP wouldn't be enough to withstand its blows, he manages to defeat in 40 minutes mark. However, just before the white-striped Tiger King's demise, a system message popped up, presenting him with two options. He could either kill the boss for its regular rewards or expel it to complete a mission. By selecting the second option, the boss's respawn location would reset, and because he needed to fulfill the mission requirements, he decided on the latter. As a result, he received the Fearless and Daring title. Soon after, he was presented with another mission, this one requiring him to clear the wild creatures on Guanyin Peak in order to rename it. But before that, he was eager to explore the benefits of his new title. Surprisingly, the title granted him a 20% base HP bonus as an attribute. This significant bonus delighted him, especially considering it was a percentage-based increase, meaning it would remain potent as he continued to level up. With renewed spirits, he set out to complete his next mission. With his newfound title and the force of wild creatures under his command, Liu Chen found the game even more captivating, and so excitement surged through him as he took on the role of a leader and directed his subordinates to clear the monsters ahead. Together, their combined strength resulted in a steady stream of experience points and valuable upgrade materials. Before long, equipment began to drop. To his delight, he received not just one, but two items simultaneously. The first was a white-grade spiked wolf fawn club, and the second was a pair of white wolf hide leggings. This unexpected windfall added to his excitement, and he eagerly rallied his subordinates, informing them that it was time to upgrade everyone's equipment. An hour later, Liu Chen had successfully reached level 12. Surprisingly, a system notification appeared, informing him about the level 12 solo secret realm of Moon Valley. This was a unique gameplay feature within the Empyrean God realm, divided into solo and multiplayer modes, and unlike regular dungeons, there were no entry limits during the opening times. However, since the Moon Valley was a solo dungeon, Liu Chen couldn't bring his subordinates along, so he instructed them to continue leveling up outside, and specifically advised them not to engage with too many monsters at once, and instead fight them in 5-on-5 battles and take a break when their HP dropped below 40%. With that settled, he approached the portal, but just as he was about to enter, another system notification appeared, revealing that this secret realm would drop items according to the player's needs. And to enter, he had to offer something to the secret realm. The catch was that the first player who discovered the secret realm and made an offering would receive 5 times the rewards. Additionally, the equipment obtained from the realm wouldn't be of lower quality than the items offered, and there was also a higher chance of obtaining equipment for the same parts as the one offered, and he could put in 2 items, which was a great opportunity for Liu Chen, and so he carefully considered what to offer, contemplating whether to contribute weapons or armor. But as he thinks further, a sudden realization struck him. With this, he realized how foolish he was to even consider putting in equipments instead of upgrade materials, because as long as he puts in 4-star materials, it will still be relevant even if he ranks up, and so it will be more cost-effective than offering equipments. And with the 500% increase in the loots dropped, he is certain that he would make a fortune. With this in mind, he didn't hesitate to offer the 4-star materials. He then entered the dungeon and was instantly captivated by its spaciousness. While he was still admiring the dungeon's interior, a global announcement began, informing all players about a player named Only I'm Wild, just discovered the level 12 solo secret realm of Moon Valley and obtained the title Moon Pioneer. Consequently, the secret realm officially opened to all players, and it was recommended that they hurry if they were interested in competing for the secret treasure. With this announcement, everyone was left in a state of surprise, not because of the secret realm itself, but due to how rapidly Only I'm Wild was leveling up, and he had already gained a title, something extremely challenging to achieve. Unlike them, who hadn't even left the novice village yet, and so it seems like Only I'm Wild was rapidly becoming stronger. However, since this was a global announcement, even Liu Chen had received it, and so he couldn't help but curse at this feature, as he hadn't intended to make such a big fuss about it. Nevertheless, since he couldn't do anything about it, he decided to let it be and focus on the bright side, the fact that he had obtained another title, which gave him a 10% strength bonus. Furthermore, the monsters had already spawned, so there was no reason to complain, and so Liu Chen was eager to engage in action. Fortunately for him, even though there were many moon silver wolves, they weren't particularly strong, so he could handle 5 of them at a time without feeling much pressure. And as he had wished for, every time he defeated a moon silver wolf, he gained 5 times the amount of upgrade materials, which instantly brought a huge grin to his face. And so he continued his merciless rampage with enthusiasm, and with the sheer number of monsters he was taking down, he leveled up in just an hour. He also collected over 1,000 materials, which enhanced all of his talents to 4 stars. With this, a significant change could be seen in his attributes, as his maximum physical attack had reached 233. His defense was at 142, and even his HP was nearing 5,000, and thanks to his mixed 4-star bloodlines, his critical chance, movement speed, and poison damage had all significantly improved. Additionally, he gained a king title as a prefix, signifying that he had officially become a boss, and the only thing stopping him from ranking up further was his lack of knowledge about where to find the ancient heart and ancient fragment materials. However, he wasn't done with the dungeon yet, as he hadn't encountered the boss, so he decided to temporarily set aside thoughts of ranking up to 5 stars, and being a boss monster himself, he wasn't afraid to seek out the dungeon's boss. And just like that, he encountered the boss, which he didn't hesitate to attack, and as soon as their attack collided, he was more than confident that defeating this boss would be an easy task, and so with a smug superiority, he taunted the boss, calling it as a weak-ass bitch, while he smacked his rod at it, and just like what he assumed, he killed the boss in just minutes, gaining 4,000 experience points and 35-star materials, which instantly made him ecstatic, as he had become richer than ever before. While other players received the shock of their lives, as the system announced once again that the secret realm had been cleared and would close in 5 minutes. This news really disappointed them, as they hadn't had the chance to explore the place, and they had no idea when it would open again. Meanwhile, Liu Chen had left the dungeon, and with plenty of extra materials, he decided to exchange them for reputation and upgrade his Legion recruitment order to the maximum level. With this, he could now recruit 10 subordinates. He also unlocked a new position for his members, the squad leader, which allows his subordinates to lead a squad of 5 units independently. Subsequently, a mission was unlocked, requiring him to set up a camp. This involved cutting down 500 trees and collecting 500 units of stones to build a residence for his subordinates in his own territory. Upon completion, he would be rewarded with a 3rd-stage defense formation called the 4-sided Epic Guardian Formation. And with such new developments, he quickly recruited more monsters. Once their group completed, he instructed them to chop trees and move stones, and if they finished ahead of schedule, they could go and level up together. And after hours of non-stop grinding, Liu Chen decided it was time to take a well-deserved rest from the game. But as soon as he removed his VR helmet, he couldn't help himself but smile as he realized that he had earned 500,000 yuan in less than a week, which had felt like a dream, but the sensation returning to his upper body assured him it was real. So he eagerly looked forward to the day he'd return to his normal self, and that day didn't seem too far off, as he could already sense heat in his thighs as well. Before that though, he wanted to buy a house, and with 500,000 yuan, he couldn't afford a large one, but it would be enough for him and his stepsister. With this in mind, he took out his phone and checked out the newly opened boutique-sized apartment in Huangshanipin. It was fully furnished and cost only 400,000 yuan, with a 10,000 yuan deposit in advance. And the best part was he could get a full refund if he changed his mind. So he was excited to visit it tomorrow and give Louis a pleasant surprise. Meanwhile, in the C country's National Security Bureau, Special Action Group leader Manhua was reporting to his director. He informed the director that their bureau had successfully established a special action group to participate in the game. However, he expressed his confusion about why they were attaching such importance to a game, prompting the director to explain that the game, Empyrean God Realm, was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Even governments and militaries worldwide were participating, so it is highly likely that it will change the future of mankind. And he speculates that if the time comes that there would be a second Empyrean God realm to be set online, they would finally gain a deeper understanding of what was happening. And now that it was clarified to his subordinates, the director inquired about their progress in the game, to which Manhwa hesitated to admit that the game had proven to be quite challenging for them, as they were currently stuck in the poison mist forest. The director, however, had a solution to their dilemma, and that is to find out who Only I'm Wild is. And given that they are the National Security Bureau, it wasn't too difficult to uncover the identity of this unique madman. So their next mission was clear, and that is to befriend him at any cost. Previous chapter, Liu Chen entered the Chaos Burial Hill, encountering monsters that surpassed his level. Despite the challenge, these were the subordinates he had been seeking for a long time. He endeavored to lure one and successfully made it his subordinate, earning a quest to establish a territory within the mountains. To maintain secrecy, he chose the tallest mountain. There, he faced and defeated a white-striped Tiger King, completing his mission. To his surprise, he received another quest, requiring him to clear monsters in the vicinity to rename his territory, and so he resumed his grind yet again. And as he did this, equipment began to drop, which really excited him because his subordinates could finally upgrade their equipment. With this, he had successfully completed the mission, and even gained another level. Surprisingly, being the first to level up to 12 activated a hidden function within the game, revealing to him a level 12 secret realm of the Moon Valley, in which he was required to sacrifice 2 things he wanted, in order to get it as a loot later on. And what's even more exciting about this, was that the first one to discover the secret realm will gain 5 times the rewards. With this, he was smart enough to realize that it was more cost-effective to put 2 upgrade materials instead of an equipment. And with this decision, he leveled up within an hour, and also harvested over 1,000 materials, so all his talents reached 4 stars. And he even gained a king title as a prefix, signifying that he now had become a boss. And having gathered all required materials, he upgraded his Legion recruitment order to the max level, now commanding 10 minions. This also enabled his subordinates to have their own set of minions. Consequently, he received another quest, instructing him to build a residence for his minions. Without hesitation, he embarked on this task. And after a few hours of in-game progress, Liu Chen decided to take a rest, and with his bank well stacked, he concluded that buying their own house to surprise Louis would be the best move, and so he planned to visit Huangshaniping the next day. Now on to the next part. The next day, Liu Chen arrived at Huangshaniping, where he was promptly greeted by one of its staff. She inquired if he was there to check out the property and offered her assistance, which Liu Chen confirmed that he was, specifying that he was interested in seeing a small-sized apartment, and so they proceeded directly to where the samples were displayed. Meanwhile, in the shadows, 3 men in suits observed Liu Chen closely, checking if he was indeed the person they were looking for. One of them was even unsure, finding it hard to believe that the skilled player known as Only I'm Wild was disabled in real life, which his colleague reassured him that it was indeed Liu Chen. And despite the information stating that he could only move his head and one arm, there was no doubt that it was definitely him. However, they couldn't approach Liu Chen so suddenly. Therefore, the group leader instructed them to get ready and wait for the right opportunity to get closer to him. And so Liu Chen continued his tour of the apartment, in which he received reassurances from the staff about the quality of their property, and she also heavily states that he won't make a bad purchase or be deceived. And with only 1 unit left, the staff urged Liu Chen to proceed with the purchase without hesitation, emphasizing that the property might be gone in a moment, which was very suspicious to say the least. But since Liu Chen was eager to surprise Louis, and the fact that there were still many opportunities for him to make money later, he didn't notice that he was already being hustled, and therefore he was about to buy the apartment. Fortunately, before he could proceed, a pink-haired woman intercepted them, advising him not to purchase the apartment due to existing problems. This shocked all the staff members, but she ain't playing around, so before any preventive action could be taken, she loudly announced for everyone to hear, warning them not to buy any more apartments from Huangshaniping. According to her, their apartment complex had serious quality problems, and there was a high possibility that it might collapse. And this proved highly effective because even if people were unsure about the truth of her words, it was better for them to believe it than not, because if there really was a problem, their life savings would be at risk. Even Liu Chen had completely changed his mind because he knew all too well that once he made the payment, It wouldn't be easy to get it back. And seeing the potential buyers turn to potential loss, the staff recognized that this woman posed a genuine threat to their business. So the staff decided to escalate the situation by calling for security to remove her and prevent any further disruptions, ensuring she couldn't make a big fuss again. Which the guard immediately appeared as they were all ready for some smoke, and the leader believed in equal rights. So he told his men that it's okay to be ruthless to this woman, which his subordinates was equally savage, as they assured him to not worry, since they were planning to do just that even if he didn't say anything. And they were such scumbags that even Luchin was hit by stray from one of these goons, cursing at him for just being a cripple. After that, they went straight to the girl and show her where the exit was. With this, the girl asks everyone in the room to help her, thinking that they are on her side. To her surprise, these people are more interested in videoing her for some laughs and views, which was cruel to say the least. They could at least just ignore her if they don't want to get in trouble. That was the least they could do for informing them. But instead, they just laughed at her and humiliate her at her circumstance, which she couldn't believe their audacity. Still, she tries to reason out with them, telling them that she came here for their sake. However, even with this, they didn't stop filming her, just like how the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. But unlike any other, Luchin was present, and he couldn't let anyone just bully someone that clearly had helped him, and so he intercepted these goons. To his surprise, he can't just take a break with these fuckers, as they keep on insulting him in every chance they get, calling him a cripple who likes to pretend to be a hero, and they were straight up ruthless. They didn't even hesitate to gang up on a cripple. With this, he concluded that these goons likes playing catch, and so he made them try to catch these hands, left and right, humiliating them on the spot. He even blocked their attacks with ease, which Luchin was quite surprised as well, because not only did he become much stronger, but his reaction speed also became faster. However, these goons couldn't let some nobody humiliate them like that, and so they are willing to do everything just to bring them down, even resorting to flip his wheelchair over. Luckily for Luchin, the brothers in suit took this opportunity to help him, and they already devised a story to fool the others that they are making a grave mistake laying their hands on Luchin, because he is actually their young master, which Luchin was caught off guard as well. But reacting now would just make things worse, so he shut the hell up and just let these brothers cook. And so, these men in suits beat the crap out of these goons without holding back, and with such brutality, the leader of the goons finally recognized who they were up against, and so he apologized. Subsequently, Manhwa shifted his attention to Luchin, seamlessly maintaining his act as he addressed him once again as young master. He offered an apology for any startle he may have caused, assuring Luchin that if there were no further concerns, he could entrust the rest to them. Luchin, in sync with their performance, granted permission for them to proceed as he intended to take his leave. However, just before making his exit, another troublesome group decided to intervene, arrogantly introducing themselves as the Jian Gang Group, with their manager going by the name of Mr. Huang. But their smug faces wouldn't be there for long, as Manhwa called old Zhao and exposed the entirety of their questionable business practices. But just as expected, Huang failed to grasp the severity of their situation, dismissing Manhwa's actions as mere bluff. Given the Jian Group's formidable influence in Jian City, Huang was overly confident that Manhwa's efforts were futile. However, Manhwa's demeanor suggested otherwise. He conveyed to them that they had less than 10 minutes left, but bro really thought he was him. So Huang didn't take their threats seriously, and just tried hard to act cool while ironically calling out someone for acting cool. And in response for Manhwa's countdown, he declared they now had only 1 minute left, as he instructed his henchmen to deal with the situation. Even the henchmen adopted his overconfidence, boasting that it wouldn't take more than a minute, believing that they were merely contending with small-time thugs. And with this confidence, and the fact that they hate pretentious bastards like them the most, they didn't hesitate to strike first. However, it was soon evident that wasn't the case, as they were getting their asses handed to them instead. Even Huang couldn't believe it himself, as shock could only see on his face, while his men come flying across the room.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Therefore, Huang tries his best to save his ass, apologizing to Manhwa that he was wrong, and he would even give a compensation for their troubles. But unfortunately for him, Manhwa is already bricked up to beat them cheeks. And so he got the fate he deserved, and even though it was only one tap, it was hard enough to make Huang curl up in agony. And seeing that they are all on the ground, Manhwa continued his act, telling them this is what they get for offending his young master, and he promised that to the ones who still wanted to provoke their young master will regret it for life. And with such display, everyone now believes that this guy on a wheelchair must be a son from a big family, which the pink-haired girl wasn't convinced at first, since a son of a big family wouldn't come here to buy a place, but she was later convinced, as the other elders clarified to her that this was definitely a test by the family, and now the test is over. And seeing that their facade had convinced everyone, Manhwa doubles down on his act, suddenly bowing to Lu Chen, as he welcomed him back to the family to take charge of the situation, since the 3-year deadline was finally up, which Lu Chen was flabbergasted to say the least, as he recognized this act to be just like the plot of a famous drama called The Crooked Mouthed Dragon King, and the fact that Manhwa is so natural about it shocked him even more. Nevertheless, Lu Chen understood the assignment, and so he skillfully employed his award-winning acting abilities, responding to Manhwa as if he were truly a young master from a prestigious family. Exuding a smug demeanor, he conveyed the notion that he desired a normal life, but, with their presence, living an ordinary existence now appeared to be a luxury. Even Manhwa was impressed by the audacity Lu Chen displayed, so it seems like this guy can pretend better than him. And not long after, the police had come to the scene and arrested Huang and his men, since the Jiangong group is suspected of collusion between officials and businessmen, failure to meet construction standards, involvement in land grabbings, fraud, violent injury and death incidents. With this, Huang could only cry as he regrets that he didn't realize sooner that the wheelchair guy'd have such a terrifying background. Once that was settled, the chief went straight to Manhwa to apologize, acknowledging that it was their negligence, letting these criminals run wild for so long, so it is right to punish them for this. But Manhwa isn't cruel to his allies, and seeing that they already got the perpetrators on cuffs, he just let it be, so he told them that they can all go back now, as he has something important to discuss with the young master. With this development, he finally had the alone time necessary to request Lu Chen to find a quiet place for a conversation, a request to which Lu Chen readily agreed, since he observed that even the chief nodding and bowing, so it became evident that this individual must have a prestigious background, and it is obvious that this guy has something to ask him. He just hope it's not too troublesome. However, before they could proceed, the pink-haired girl approached him to express her gratitude for his assistance, and the fact that it came from him, someone who has an amazing background, was really unexpected. In response, Lu Chen also thanked her for warning everyone. However, since Manhwa couldn't afford to wait any longer, he positioned himself between them and informed her that they would be departing immediately, and he made it clear that his subordinates would be responsible for expressing gratitude for assisting their young master. A few moments later, they found themselves in a restaurant's VIP room, where Lu Chen then wasted no time and directly inquired about their identities, to which Manhwa apologized since they can't reveal such information at the moment. However, the reason they sought him out was because, in the Empyrean God realm, there existed someone known as Only I Am Wild, and they needed his assistance. In response, Lu Chen questioned why they believed he could locate this individual, which Manhwa didn't offer a clear explanation but emphasized that Tianqing's network defense system is impeccable, but banks and other systems are not. With this revelation, Lu Chen instantly realized that these individuals were far from ordinary. The ability to query bank records went beyond the capabilities of a typical organization, so he became wary of their intentions and wondered what more these people could want from him. On the other hand, Manhwa's perspective was straightforward. They needed Lu Chen's help because they had 500 people trapped in front of the snake tide, and they required assistance navigating through the poison mist forest. So he went straight to demonstrate their sincerity and persuade him, and that is by presenting Lu Chen with a card, which can grant him the privilege to choose any villa in Diamond Manor as a reward if he decided to lend them a hand. However, Lu Chen, being sharp-witted, recognized that the offer was an exceedingly generous reward for a relatively small favor in assisting them in a game. Consequently, he declined their offer, which Manhwa attempted to counter, emphasizing that the Empyrean God Realm had just opened its first layer, and there were many days ahead for their partnership. However, this reasoning didn't align with Lu Chen's principles, as he disliked owing favors, and he steadfastly stuck to his belief that he would earn what he wanted with his own efforts, which Manhwa respected, and he knows that forcing Lu Chen to accept the initial offer would go against his wishes. Therefore, Manhwa revised the proposal, suggesting that the card would now come with a 30% discount on the chosen property instead of being entirely free. Additionally, they pledged to safeguard both him and his family's privacy. which Lu Chen immediately appreciated the consideration given to his preferences, so he agreed to their revised proposal. But before he could help them, he sought an explanation as to why they were expending so much effort on what was essentially just a game, prompting MysticMANHWA to explain what Lu Chen already knew, and that Empyrean God Realm is not as simple as just a game, as it already involved global governments and military forces worldwide. But much like Lu Chen, they don't know the specifics. The response was disappointing, to say the least, but there was no reason for Lu Chen to doubt the words of this man, and if there were any details being concealed, it likely meant he didn't need to know them at the moment, and the fact that they have given him enough already, Lu Chen decided to let it be. But before departing, he instructed MysticMANHWA to come to the Poison Mist Forest between 7 and 7:30 tonight. This surprised MysticMANHWA, as Lu Chen hadn't revealed how to navigate the forest yet. However, it seemed that he just has to trust Lu Chen, who assured him that they would just find out the details when they get there. While Lu Chen, on the other hand, had a smile on his face, since the 30% discount card is very valuable. And of course, being able to protect both his and his sister's privacy outweighed any inconvenience. Thus, he considered it worth cooperating a bit. A few moments later, the designated time that Lu Chen had specified arrived, and so, MysticMANHWA's guild, the Iron Blood Defenders, gathered at the Poison Mist Forest, patiently awaiting everyone to log in. During this time, MysticMANHWA's guildmates expressed their worries, doubting their stupid plan to work, because who in their right mind would just rush through the forest aimlessly? And what's more, their equipments were trash. However, this wouldn't be an issue if they could purchase better gear, but the reality was that Poison Mist sets were now both scarce and highly sought after. Therefore, their only choice was to trust Lu Chen's words. So as soon as the last member logged in, they wasted no time charging forward. To their astonishment, upon reaching their destination, they were greeted by a sight that left them dumbfounded, revealing to them that Lu Chen is nowhere to be found, but had already cleared all the monsters, single-handedly. He wiped out the entire wolf pack, a task their guild had struggled to accomplish together. But what astonished them even more was that Lu Chen had not only dealt with the regular monsters but also defeated the boss of the Poison Mist Forest, which wasn't such an easy feat to accomplish, considering the countless guilds that had been forced to retreat from the area because of her. So soloing the forest suggested that Lu Chen was stronger than an entire guild, a concept that left them grappling with disbelief. Unbeknownst to them, Lu Chen didn't tackle the task alone. He even acknowledged that he would have struggled to accomplish the favor without the assistance of his minions. But since the favor was settled, Lu Chen resumed his grind, and with that, 2 days passed swiftly, and through his relentless efforts, he acquired 47 pieces of spiked wolf fawn club, 53 wolf skin leggings, and everyone reached level 14, a remarkable progress. And he even obtained a new piece of equipment from a 3-petal flower monster, something he had never seen before. To his excitement, it turned out to be a unique item, a revelation he wasn't aware of until now, and it took more than 2 days to drop one piece, so its drop rate justified its uniqueness. However, there was a downside. It revealed to be that it could only be worn by female characters, but he wasn't bothered much about it since he is a monster after all. Still, its unique effect can't be ignored either, because not only this skirt could emit a faint fragrance, it can also increase movement speed by 5%, and had a small chance to confuse opponents, a debuff that could cause targets with a lower level than the wearer to lose consciousness, and be controlled for 30 seconds, a really powerful passive. But what can he do? He couldn't equip it, so he decided to auction it instead. But since this item was first of its kind, he was uncertain about its market value. Still, drawing from past experiences, he recognized the best approach was to initiate the auction with a starting bid of 1,000 without setting any buyout price, which was a strategy aimed to maximize the potential selling price through competitive bidding. Which was a smart idea, as all the women quickly noticed the unique item displayed in the auction menu. Even Feng Lingji took notice, and the fact that it didn't occupy the normal equipment slot but rather the prop slot intrigued many players. Additionally, it came with extra stats and passive effects, so Feng Lingji couldn't resist trying it on. To her surprise, it looked even more beautiful when worn, and she couldn't help but notice a faint fragrance that smelled so good, making it extra fresh down there. With this, Feng Lingji instantly fell in love with the skirt, and so she was convinced that she had to buy it no matter what. But unfortunately for her, each time she placed a bid, it was instantly surpassed, no matter how high the price she offered. So it became evident that numerous players were fiercely competing, making the process quite challenging. And that is solely because there were filthy rich dudes and simps who was willing to spend a whole lot more than they could chew, just for the sake of simping. With this, the bid continued to increase at a rapid rate, and soon enough, with only 5 seconds left, the bid had already reached 65,300 yuan, and so Feng Lingxi instructed her chat to pause momentarily as she needed to focus, recognizing that the last few moments were crucial, in order for her to bid at the last second and secure a chance at obtaining the skirt. However, much to her surprise, when the timer hit the 1-second mark, it abruptly froze, suggesting that other players had also planned to bid at the last second, causing a server lag. As a result, the 100-flower-long skirt was successfully sold by the player named Spring Dew Fairy Dance for 98,700 yuan. After deducting the 10% handling fee, 88,830 yuan was transferred to Lu Chen's bank card, which he was thrilled to see such an outcome, especially considering he had almost sold it for a mere 2,000 yuan. And with this transaction, his bank balance had now exceeded 650,000 yuan, and when factoring in the 30% discount card, he was now in a position to consider purchasing a house worth almost 1,000,000 yuan. However, he knew he mustn't rush, mindful of not repeating the same mistake as before, hastily buying a house without thorough investigation. Therefore, he opted to postpone his decision and focus on playing for the time being. With this mindset, he decided to prioritize fusing and enhancing the bloodline of the 3-petal flower monster. With this bloodline, his field of vision expands by 400 meters, and he is now immune to low-level charm effects. As a result, he underwent another mutation, sprouting a plant on his head just so that his enhanced vision could take effect. And the sudden improvement astonished him, because 400-meter leap in vision was literally insane. But what surprised him even more was that it helped him notice a hidden area just sitting in front of him, implying that this mist should have a low-level charm effect. That's why he couldn't see it before, which also added an air of mystery to what lay inside. Consequently, it sparked his curiosity, prompting him to venture further into this mysterious place. Hit that like button. Previous chapter, Lu Chen narrowly avoided purchasing a problematic apartment thanks to a well-intentioned individual who warned him about its flaws. However, the situation took an unexpected turn, leading to Lu Chen being jumped by 3 dudes. Fortunately, Manhua, an agent from the country's National Security Bureau, intervened just in time, beat the heck out of these guys, and even sent them to jail for their suspicious business practices. Following this incident, Manhua straightforwardly approached Lu Chen with a proposition, asking him to assist them in the Empyrean God realm, which Lu Chen was about to decline, but since they offered a 30% discount for any villa he wants, and the promise to safeguard him and his family's privacy, Lu Chen agreed to collaborate with Manhua and his team. Once the favor was settled, Lu Chen resumed his gaming endeavors, achieving another level up along with acquiring a unique piece of equipment. To his surprise, the item gained considerable popularity and fetched nearly 100,000 yuan when sold, bringing delight to Lu Chen. But despite contemplating its use, he decided to hold onto it for a future occasion and just continue playing. With his focus now on fusing with the bloodline of the 3-petal flower monster, Lu Chen expanded his field of vision by an impressive 400 meters and gained immunity to low-level charms. With this, he noticed a hidden area just sitting in front of him, consequently sparking his curiosity, and so he didn't think twice to enter the mysterious place. Now on to the next part. Surprisingly, as he prepared to continue, a tablet appeared before him, revealing information about what lay beyond the mist. This place is called the Lost Eden, inhabited by roaming monsters, and the path that only leads to destruction, so it is advised not to enter because as soon as someone does, the Garden of Eden wouldn't stop expanding its territory until the 8 formation eyes are still standing tall, which would normally deter a normal player from venturing further. But unfortunately, Lu Chen isn't a normal player, so he continued to venture beyond the mist. Consequently, a server-wide warning was issued immediately, informing everyone that the player only on Wild had activated the Lost Eden server-wide task called Resist the Invasion. This shocked every player across servers, and looking at the title of the task, they couldn't help but feel an ominous vibe. So they all wonder what the fuck is Wild doing to cause such trouble. But they didn't have to wonder for long, as another system interface popped up, informing them that this event is a level 20 server-wide task, in which an unknown mist on the east side of the server was activated, and it is spreading rapidly. And this is a significant issue because the mist enhances the strength of wild monsters while weakening human attacks, abilities, and skill effects. Additionally, it permanently corrodes equipment, reducing equipment durability limits that cannot be repaired, and it slows down mana recovery speed as well. To prevent this, they have to destroy the 8 formation eyes in Lost Eden as soon as possible. If completed, the one who destroys the formation eye can get a special reward, and the whole server will get double experience for 10 hours. With this, some players were in a panic, wondering how the hell could they even clear a level 20 task, and if this could also mean that Wild is already level 20, to which another player clarified that it would be impossible for someone to reach that level that fast, and the only reason the task is set at level 20 is because it's a server-wide task, increasing the difficulty level. Now that this was clarified, the only problem they had was not knowing where Lost Eden is located. To their surprise, even before they could do anything, another system interface popped up, notifying them that due to the server-wide task, all servers would be temporarily merged into one server, so all players would be forced to log off in 2 minutes, and the merger would last 15 minutes, so they just had to be patient and wait before they could start this task. With this, the players were excited, as this could be their chance to expand their reputation and get tons of rewards. Not only that, all the players would be in the same server, allowing them to join forces with others to double their overall power and easily complete the task. And with 15 minutes of prep time, they could find the necessary people to make this plan a reality. So, everyone did just that. Even Feng Lingji and her friends allied with other guilds, which welcomed her openly, believing that with her influence, most of the players would surely join their temporary alliance. And while everyone was trying to expand their manpower, Lu Chen, on the other hand, was cursing at the system for broadcasting everything. He wanted to keep a low profile, but the system wouldn't allow it. But since he couldn't do anything about it, he decided to let it be and focus on what lay ahead. And just as the system had announced, the mist had completely mutated the werewolves, making them appear much stronger than before. What was even more shocking was that their levels had also grown exponentially, so it seemed that clearing this mist wasn't as easy as he had initially thought. However, before he could consider a tactical retreat, a sudden realization struck him, instantly changing his mind. He remembered that he was a wild monster as well, and if the werewolves were mutated, so was he. And as expected, he and some of his subordinates had mutated into more frightening creatures than ever before, and Lu Chen couldn't help but notice the immense power flowing inside him. With this, it was evident that his attributes had doubled, so he was more than delighted with this outcome, and the fact that the power-up was also stable was more than he could ask for. 15 minutes later, the server had reopened, and so Lu Chen didn't hesitate to put on his VR helmet login immediately, as he was excited, because in the temporary merged area, with so many players put together, the level 10 main city should be spectacular. But since he is a monster, the only way he could see it is by going to Feng Lingji's live stream, and so he went straight to her channel. And just as he expected, at the level 10 main city, Stormwind, the players had gathered like ants. It was even more crowded than the previous novice village. In addition, there is no novice protection for those above level 10, but they shouldn't worry about team fights breaking out soon, since everyone is focused on looking for the lost Garden of Eden. But even still, Feng Lingji couldn't shake the feeling of fear, since she had just recently changed jobs, and being an exorcist without any summons yet really makes her an easy target, and the fact that everyone is on a single server isn't helping either. But Lu Chen, on the other hand, couldn't help feeling fortunate to be a wild monster, since he wouldn't have to deal with what they are dealing with right now. And it is estimated that it will take them some time to find the entrance to the lost Garden of Eden, so it is better for him to seize the opportunity to hunt more monsters before other players join the battle. With this plan in mind, he and his subordinates initiated a rampage against the mutated monsters, and they aren't planning on taking a rest, as they swiftly move to the next opponent after delivering the final blow on the poor fox. And this tactic turned out to be more profitable than Lu Chen had anticipated, because with each kill, he received 3 times the usual amount, and the drop rate was so high that upgrade materials had a 100% chance to drop, along with different equipment parts. With this, Lu Chen couldn't help but smile as he continued to amass wealth by the minute. And the fact that another stupidly terrifying boss monster appeared before him just made him all excited, since he knows all too well this bitch going to drop some thick-ass loot. And just as he anticipated, after effortlessly defeating the level 17 mutant boss monster, It not only rewarded him with 5-star upgrade materials but also provided equipment. One such item was a green level 15 Wolf King Claw, boasting a maximum attack power of 38, powerful additional attributes, a 30% increase in critical hit chance, and a 10% increase in critical damage. Additionally, he obtained a green level 15 Netherworld Iron Ring, boosting his attack power by 18 and increases his critical chance by 4%, which really excited Liu Chen, and so he didn't hesitate to put them on immediately and test them out, which it didn't disappoint, showcasing the explosive increase in critical hit power, allowing him to effortlessly break through any obstacle. And this weapon could also be retracted at will, so he was more than happy of the results, and so he decided to make this his main weapon and auction his previous one. To his surprise, upon opening the auction menu, he didn't expect to see that the prices of all the equipment had increased, but this development might be because of the server-wide mission, as everyone now needed more equipment. But he ain't complaining though, especially since he was planning to sell his old weapon. And being the opportunistic player that he is, Liu Chen knew not to waste this chance to earn more money. Thus, he continued his grind with his team, more determined and vigorous than ever before. But because of this, with just a few hours later, the players noticed the equipment auctioned by Only I'm Wild originated from a silver wolf. With this, they speculated that the hidden entrance to the Garden of Eden was near the location of the silver wolves. So, they gathered in groups and conducted a thorough search, hoping to discover the entrance. Fortunately, their efforts paid off when one of them noticed a displaced fog near some trees. So without hesitations, they approached it. In response, the fog suddenly accelerated, as if pulling them in, as the southeast side of the formation area had opened for the players, which they didn't hesitate to enter, as this was their time shine and be the first to conquer the Garden of Eden. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hidden area, Liu Chen arrived at the location of the southeastern eye of the 8 formation. There, a pillar covered in flames greeted his eyes with a magnificent display of unknown power. However, Liu Chen wasn't there to sightsee. His mission was to destroy the formation, but seeing how the pillar emitted a powerful aura, he knew it wouldn't be an easy task, and being the smartass that he was, he decided not to charge in blindly. Instead, he commanded one of his minions to attack it. Without hesitation, his subordinates charged in, but as the Banshee approached the pillar, a level 20 remnant soul of the evil wolf Hattie materialized from thin air to intercept it, violently swinging its rod to the Banshee, dealing a great amount of damage in which Liu Chen was even dumbfounded to witness. He couldn't believe that a single attack from it could deduct half of his subordinates' health points. With this, he commanded all his subordinates to back off as he would be the one to face it. However, things weren't going as he wanted it to be, because even with his 500 attack power, he couldn't break the boss's defense. To make matters worse, this formidable foe had 100,000 health points. With this, he experienced what other players must have felt when battling him. Still, Liu Chen refused to believe that the boss had no weaknesses, so he analyzed the boss. Judging from its enormous attack and health, its mana defense might be low, or better yet, it is non-existent. With this insight, he concluded that using mana attacks would be the most effective way to defeat it, and therefore he told his subordinates that this time they are really going to fight a tough battle, so they should prepare themselves for a long and grindy evening, since they will grind this motherfucker all night. After that speech, Liu Chen released his load to wrap the monster's arm, in order for his subordinates to freely attack it. But as he just said, this boss was built different, breaking off its binds easily. Nevertheless, they composed themselves, positioning the wolves in the front lines while having the banshees use magic to attack from afar. Even Liu Chen was using his signature back shot, and with this tactical approach, after an hour had passed, the boss was nearing its demise. Yet Liu Chen remained cautious, aware that overconfidence could be their downfall, and he will never permit them to be caught lacking like that. And so he reminds his subordinates to focus, stand their ground and avoid getting carried away. There was no room for mistakes. Meanwhile, on the human player's side, everyone who was logged in had entered the hidden area, including Manhua and his guildmates. However, they all faced a common problem. The mutated monsters were challenging to defeat, and the negative effects of the mist greatly increased the difficulty, as it rapidly decreased their equipment durability and significantly weakening them. So it became evident to the players the severity of this mist's potential, leading the players to ponder what might happen if the mist spread to the main city. But despite these concerns, they knew that dwelling on the potential consequences wouldn't be helpful, so they just focused on finding the formation and destroy it. To their surprise, they don't have to worry about it anymore, as another global notification popped up above them, announcing that the player Only I'm Wild had successfully destroyed the Southeast I formation and earned the title Top 1. The revelation shocked every player who witnessed it, as they couldn't believe that one person could single-handedly destroy a level 20 formation. Meanwhile, on Liu Chen's side, the area showed unmistakable marks of intense conflict, and the once mighty boss now lay slumped against the broken pillar. Regrettably, even among Liu Chen's loyal subordinates, some had met their demise, while Liu Chen himself was the only one standing, his fatigue evident as he gasped for breath. Nonetheless, he felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing that his efforts were not in vain. He eagerly looked forward to discovering the rewards he would receive after completing this nearly impossible task. A server-wide event called the Lost Eden was activated, tasking players with finding the hidden entrance to the Lost Eden and resisting the invasion emerging from it. This massive event led to the temporary merging of all servers, bringing together stronger guilds to collaborate in an attempt to destroy the array eyes of the Lost Eden. However, the mutated monsters within the Lost Eden posed a formidable challenge. Fortunately, Liu Chen, being a monster himself, found that the fog within the area enhanced rather than hindered his abilities, making farming easier for him. As a result, Liu Chen was the first to reach the initial array eye. To his surprise, the boss monster guarding it proved to be formidable, unlike any he had encountered before, with its attack easily depleting his health from a single strike. And for the first time, Liu Chen found himself on the brink of defeat. Yet, employing strategic tactics and displaying unwavering determination, he ultimately triumphed over the boss monster, albeit after several hours of intense battle. On to the next part. Since Liu Chen had defeated the evil wolf Hades remnant, a system notification popped up, giving him options to choose from as a reward, such as Hades' Essence Fragment, which allows him to summon a powerful Phantom Hades to fight for him, and its duration and combat power grows stronger with his level. Second option was Hades' Cub, which allows him to summon Hades' Cub. The cub is weaker than the other cubs, and very easily attracts monsters' attacks, but after growing up, it will bring a huge surprise. And since Liu Chen has a territory now, rather than summoning a limited-time monster, he deduced that it would be better to get a cub and raise it in his territory. With this in mind, he chose the second option, gaining a cute little cub with a little pacifier that comes with it. Still, he can't use its cuteness, so Liu Chen immediately lifted it up and looked at its attributes. And just like what had been mentioned before, its attributes is definitely trash, as it only had 1 point of attack power, and it need a lot of mana to grow, so it seems like it would take time for him to see its improvement. But still, its circumstance is closely identical to what he previously experienced, so he was more than excited to see what this little cub will evolve into. With this in mind, Liu Chen called out his subordinates so that they could continue hunting monsters and make money in the next array eye, which they are more than willing to, as they were motivated like how their leader was. Meanwhile, in the vast expanse of the southern array eye, a conglomerate of guilds had assembled, pooling their resources and employing a variety of tactics to navigate the intricate array and conquer the challenges it posed. With strategic coordination and the inclusion of skilled rune masters, they sought to enhance their capabilities and facilitate a smoother journey through the array. However, their efforts were met with a sudden twist when the notorious player Only I'm Wild made an entrance into the southern array eye. This unexpected development sent shockwaves through the combined group of guilds, instantly elevating their alertness to a higher gear. The realization dawned on them that time was of the essence, and the infamous Only I'm Wild was now a formidable contender within the array. The urgency to complete the challenge intensified, as the assembled players were well aware that the window of opportunity to surpass Only I'm Wild and secure their victory was rapidly diminishing. Simultaneously, at the entrance of another array eye, a diverse coalition of temporarily allied guilds successfully breached the entrance, only to be confronted by a significant setback. The challenge they now faced was the random teleportation of their members to disparate locations within the array. This unexpected dispersion threw a wrench into their meticulously crafted plans, leaving them disoriented and struggling to formulate a strategy for regrouping. In contrast, the Dynasty Guild, led by the composed Dynasty Crown Prince, exhibited a calculated calmness in the face of this predicament. They had anticipated such an outcome and, remarkably, already had 70% of their forces assembled and organized. The collaborative efforts of Barry Love and the World Guilds had effectively deployed 70 players to engage with monsters at the forefront, allowing the main troops to rest and prepare for a direct assault on the array eye. The rationale behind this approach was to minimize the risk of their heavy hitters dying unexpectedly, especially considering the encroaching fog that complicated the process of regrouping. Confident in their tactical approach, they looked forward to completing the challenge seamlessly. However, their optimism was abruptly shattered by a system notification announcing that only Wild had successfully destroyed the southern array eye. This left the allied players with only 6 remaining array eyes. Faced with this new reality, they could ill afford to waste time. With a sense of urgency, they swiftly mobilized, converging on the center of the array to confront the challenges that lay ahead. Meanwhile, in the midst of the ongoing chaos, Liu Chen found himself once again presented with a rewarding choice, opting for the second option to acquire the Divine Beast, the Divine Eagle Vidifnir. With 2 Divine Beasts under his command, he resolved to further expand his formidable lineup and decided to venture into the next battleground, seeking the next array eye. However, before embarking on this new journey, Liu Chen conscientiously inspected his inventory. While he had gathered a considerable amount of equipment, a noticeable shortage of healing potions caught his attention. Recognizing the vital role potions played in facing challenging bosses, he realized the importance of replenishing his supply. The predicament, however, lay in the absence of viable locations to purchase these essential potions, adding an extra layer of annoyance to his situation. As he pondered alternative means to secure the much-needed potions, an unexpected opportunity materialized before him. As a group of players emerged from the thick bushes, navigating cautiously to maintain formation amid the low visibility caused by the surrounding fog, but their advances was abruptly stopped, as a silhouette that loomed ahead of them appeared and emitted a powerful aura, and the extensive prefix accompanying its name signaled that this particular monster was a formidable adversary. Unfortunately for the unsuspecting players, this particular boss lacked potions, and sensing an opportunity, he greeted them with a sinister grin, as he commanded his subordinates to attack these sorry fools from every direction. With this, the players are like sitting ducks, getting killed on the spot without much retaliation. It was a bloodbath, and it wasn't helping that the damage of these monsters could one-shot most of them. And seeing all of this transpired before their eyes, the well-aware players knew they would just be wiped out, so they started to retreat. To their dismay, the monsters were smart enough to target the cowards first, leaving them nowhere to run. In a mere 5 minutes, the once hopeful group of players found themselves defeated, their equipment scattered across the battlefield, and this was the first time that players had dropped equipment. This must be because of people being over level 10, passing the novice protection period. But this revelation only fueled Liu Chen's satisfaction even more, as he could now see that wild monster like him would definitely benefit killing player more, as they proved to drop more items. He even felt the need to command his subordinates to pick up the equipments because of how many there were. In observing the accelerated progress of players, Liu Chen realized that any moment of idleness would be unwise. Currently positioned closest to the southwest array eye, the Holy Fire Sun, he deemed it the optimal starting point. To his surprise, a well-trained group of around 400 players was already engaged in a fierce battle with the boss of the southwest array eye. Recognizing their prowess, Liu Chen remained unperturbed, confident that the prolonged fight would deplete their resources, making it easier for him to intervene later. While biding his time, Liu Chen decided to tune into the official broadcast, aiming to glean insights into the overall situation in the Lost Eden. And as he expected, Feng Lingji's group was contending with the boss in the western array eye, and according to their current progress, Lingji estimated a protracted battle ahead for them. But she is confident that they couldn't be the only one who is having a hard time, so she also took a look at the other group's array eyes, and just like she expected, the others were struggling to defeat the boss as well. But the most noticeable one is that the southwest array eye boss health is dropping the fastest. It should be the one that would be finished first. Next would be the northwest array eye, then the western array eye. With this in-depth summary of Lingji, Liu Chen couldn't be more grateful to her, as he just have to follow the said order and snatch the boss from other players, one after the other. With the intention firmly planted in his mind, Liu Chen took a half-hour break to rejuvenate himself. As the rest period concluded, he stretched his limbs, feeling a surge of determination coursing through him. Fully prepared, he geared up for what he considered the most devious steal in the history of gaming, a calculated move to secure the last hit and etch his name as the most infamous player of all time. With this in mind, as soon as Liu Chen got close, he immediately unleashed his load, wrapping up the players, preventing them to do anything, and the ones that were not tangled by his spider silk was easily dealt by Liu Chen. With this, he got the boss for himself, and with just 5 minutes more, he finally destroyed the southwest eye of the formation, and just like before, he chose the option 2, gaining another divine beast. But somehow, his mind was more occupied, thinking of how fruitful his plan was to attack the players. It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only he got to kill the boss, but also get tons of healing potions. With this, he excitedly proceeded to the next array eye, located in the west. Upon his arrival, He observed the concerted efforts of players working diligently to defeat the boss while maintaining a strategic formation. Their approach involved positioning the DPS units to attack from the sides, avoiding the boss's skill that absorbed mana and converted it into HP. However, their collective efforts faced an unexpected interruption as Liu Chen swiftly entered the fray, dispatching players with precision as he focused on taking down the boss. And within an hour of intense battle, Liu Chen achieved another victory, gaining a new divine beast, the Hellhound. To his surprise, a system notification flashed, revealing that a player named Imperial Prince had successfully destroyed the East Eye formation. Although this development marked another player's progress, Liu Chen remained unperturbed, having already secured 5 divine beasts for himself. But with this, an unexpected turn of events happened, as another system interface popped up in front of him, congratulating him for collecting all the cubs of the 4 ancient fierce beasts, Hadi, Vidifner, Hellhound, and Chimera. This activated the hidden quest called the Ultimate Fierce Beast. This is a Lost Eden hidden quest, unique and non-repeatable, which allows him to take any combination of the 4 fierce beasts, or ancient evil beasts, inside the quest. He just need to kill the remnants of the 4 ultimate fierce beasts, and he can get one of the 4 ultimate fierce beast summoning stones or cub. And if he accepts this quest, he can choose one of the 4 ultimate fierce beasts, such as Fenrir the World Ender Wolf, Nidhogg the Black Dragon of Despair, Jormungandr the Dust World Serpent, Kraken the Giant Monster of the North Sea. But since the Black Dragon seemed to be the most edgier one, he ultimately chose it, which promptly started the quest, teleporting him and his subordinates to a new place separated from everyone, and only pillars was besides the platform he was standing on, which he noticed that the beast he chose was standing at the top of it. With this, he can't help but feel worried that this quest might be like the Secret Realm prayer where he can no longer get back what he chose to offer, but he will soon wish it was the case, as it revealed to him that he will have to kill all the 4 fierce beasts at the same time, and on top of that, he needed to kill the Black Dragon of Despair as well. Fortunately for him, the summoned beast was not actually there to fight him, but was there to help him defeat Nidhogg. With this, he regained back his composure in completing this quest. Since the evil wolf Hadi is good at combos, Vidifner can split, the Hellhound can absorb mana, plus there is the Chimera stun, making this challenge more possible to complete, and so he immediately went to confront the dragon. But as soon as the dragon descends down, it revealed its overpowering might to them. With one fire breath, it already managed to decrease their health points by 20,000, which was an absurd amount, even for Liu Chen, because if it weren't for the 4 fierce beasts, him and his minions would definitely be dead by now. With this realization, he immediately commanded his troops to spread out and attack from a safe distance, while he on the other hand, unleashes load on the dragon's thighs to hinder it from moving anywhere, even if it was just for a second. This skill of his proved to be useful, since it opened an opportunity for the Hellhound to suck its mana, and followed with the Chimera to stun it for a second more. With this tactic, Liu Chen could damage the dragon's health bit by bit, while maintaining their survivability to the max. But since this thing has 500,000 HP, he knows that it will take a while for him to see its downfall. After an hour later, at the northeast eye of the formation, the members of the Guild of War God Blood Dance had noticed something was amiss, as the people of the Imperial Dynasty seemed to be deliberately separating them from the stone pillars, indicating that the Imperial Prince wants to break the agreement and get all the divine beast for himself, which they can't just let it be. And so they trusted their gut and signaled everyone to get close to the pillars and notify how these people from the dynasty might want to play dirty. And just like what they assumed, the prince was aiming to do just that, as he believes that every divine beast must belong to their dynasty alone. And so after defeating the boss, he immediately destroyed the array and chose the option 2. With this, the server-wide quest had been completed, but since the dungeon hasn't ended yet, they are required to wait for a few minutes at the entrance to get out of the place. With this, it opened an opportunity for the members of the War God Blood to exact revenge to the Dynasty Guild for making fools out of them, and stole their divine beast they promised to get. And so the Imperial Guild was in a predicament, where they were surrounded by angry players from all directions, and since they had a PK status because of what they had done, they can't log out off the game or else the divine beast will explode, leaving them to fend for themselves for quite some time. Meanwhile, inside the Secret Realm, Liu Chen finally killed the Black Dragon of Despair, Nidhogg. After some time, just outside the entrance of the Lost Eden, a full-scale war erupted between guilds. However, what started as a feud against the Dynasty Guild unexpectedly escalated, expanding beyond its initial scope. It wasn't just about seeking revenge on the Dynasty Guild anymore. Other players joined the fray with the intention of claiming additional divine beasts of the slaughter immortal Xian Yuan. and the system's continuous announcements revealing who obtained the divine beasts inadvertently fueled this frenzy, indirectly encouraging players to seize opportunities and engage in thievery. On top of that, the drop rate for divine beasts appeared to be considerably high, intensifying the discord and animosity among the players involved in this unfolding chaos. Meanwhile, Liu Chen was just at peace, as he got another cub on his arsenal, and since he completed the Ultimate Beast quest, it unlocked the legendary hidden quest named Divine Blood Demon Seed, requiring him to clear the 3 hidden dungeons, Twilight of Gods, Demon Temple, and Ghost Valley, and collect the 4 ultimate beasts, Nidhogg, Fenrir, Jormungandr, and Kraken. On top of that, he also needs to collect the 4 ultimate evil beast, Typhon, Hellhound, Medusa, and 100-headed Dragon Laden, which was an insane requirement for a single quest, making Liu Chen's jaw outstretch as he couldn't believe such a quest to exist. The difficulty of it was too crazy, even for him. However, before Liu Chen could delve into contemplating the daunting task that lay ahead, the system abruptly intervened, forcefully ejecting him from the Lost Eden. Since he remained the sole occupant, he found himself teleported back to the entrance of the Lost Eden, where a chaotic battlefield unfolded before his eyes. Countless players were engaged in fierce combat, displaying no restraint in their clashes. This spectacle left Slayer bewildered. It was the first time he had witnessed such a tumultuous scene unfolding right in front of him. But with other players starting to take notice of his presence, he promptly made the decision to withdraw, hastening away from the chaotic battleground. And the proximity of this place to his territory led him to choose a swift retreat to the safety of his lair. Shortly after, he summoned all his minions and welcomed them to their new home, envisioning a space where they could rest and commence building something for themselves. However, their plans were momentarily interrupted by a distant commotion, the loud noises from players echoing beyond the trees. Liu Chen, initially thinking they were pursued, was pleasantly surprised to discover that the players were embroiled in a chaotic skirmish among themselves. This unexpected turn of events delighted Liu Chen even more, as the players really know how to pick a place, and this is his home turf, so if he doesn't clean them up, it would just tarnish his reputation, and he can't let that happen, especially not when his minions were around. And so as the players were busy fighting with each other, Liu Chen and his subordinates took their time to do their most devious surprise attack. They couldn't even know what hit them, and with this, Liu Chen obtained their respective divine beast. And now it was no wonder to Liu Chen why the system always announced who destroyed the array. It turned out it's to encourage everyone to rob, and it seems like this thing has currently 100% drop rate, making it more tempting to steal. But since he almost got every divine beast in his arsenal, he was more than convinced to get the last remaining one to add to his collection. And just like before, the players were still fighting each other to get the hand on the divine beast. But unfortunately for them, Liu Chen already made up his mind to take it, and so they were easily wiped out because of this. And with just a few minutes after, he finally defeated the last remaining player, and got the last divine beast, and activated the hidden quest named Ultimate Evil Beast. And similar to his previous experience, Liu Chen was tasked with choosing one of the 4 ultimate evil beasts. Drawing from the lessons learned in his earlier quest, he approached this challenge with newfound confidence, anticipating a smoother journey ahead. And with just 2 hours later, he got to finish the hidden quest and gain the cub Fenrir. Now he has 2 wolf cub in his shoulder, which only made him delighted. But because he had been playing for hours already, he felt the need to take a rest first, and so he decided to auction the equipment he gained and log off after that. Having successfully extricated himself from the immersive gaming experience, Liu Chen found solace in the knowledge that, after selling the latest batch of equipment, his savings had likely surpassed the million mark. With financial matters in good order, he decided it was an opportune moment to pleasantly surprise Louis with a new home. However, as he prepared to embark on this thoughtful gesture, he discovered 16 missed calls on his phone, instantly triggering a wave of concern. Fearful that something untoward had befallen his sister during his gaming session, Liu Chen hastily dialed her number. To his relief, the cause of the multiple missed calls was not a dire emergency but rather Louis's frustration. The guild they were part of had become the target of relentless harassment by players from the Dynasty Guild. Incidents of bullying had escalated from the wild area to the neutral zone, making gameplay an exasperating experience. Liu Chen spent a good half-hour consoling his sister, empathizing with her predicament and offering words of encouragement. Louis was genuinely grateful for her brother's understanding and support. After the call concluded, Liu Chen realized that revealing to Louis about his identity isn't a smart idea for the time being, as his situation is too special. But the people of the dynasty really have the nerve to target his sister, while they are inferior players compared to his power, and so it seems like he will have to send a message to these guys and make them pay it full price. with no discount whatsoever. Previous chapter players had teamed up to complete a challenge with the promise of acquiring a legendary pet as a reward. However, Liu Chen had his own plans to collect as many legendary pets as possible. As the players were close to completing the challenge, Liu Chen intervened, defeating the boss and claiming the rewards. His monstrous appearance led other players to overlook him as a fellow player, allowing him to easily acquire 5 legendary beasts. This success triggered a hidden quest titled Ultimate Fierce Beast, offering him a choice to fight one of 4 legendary divine beasts, which Liu Chen chose to battle Nidhogg, the Black Dragon of Despair, anticipating that defeating it would grant him a legendary dragon pet. However, the battle was more challenging than expected. Luckily for him, his newly acquired beasts temporarily evolved to aid him in this fight, and with his own strategic planning, he managed to defeat Nidhogg and gain a legendary beast. Following this victory, Liu Chen encountered a legendary hidden quest named Divine Demon Seed. But because the requirements to complete this quest was so absurdly difficult, Liu Chen decided to complete it for another time, and not long after, he was forcefully ejected from the Lost Eden as the quest had ended. But he was in shock to witness chaos among players fighting over the legendary beasts. But thanks to his monstrous form, Liu Chen easily avoided the turmoil and returned to his territory. And just as he was about to brief his subordinates, he heard a commotion nearby involving prominent players from the event. So as he defeated them, he managed to collect all the divine beasts available on the server, reactivating the Ultimate Fierce Beast quest. This time, he felt more confident in completing it and subsequently acquired another divine beast. After several hours of gameplay, Liu Chen decided to take a break. Upon exiting the game, he learned from his sister that she and her group were being harassed by the Dynasty Guild in the game. Motivated to defend his sister, Liu Chen resolved to confront the guild and show them who they are messing with. Now on to the next part. As the sun rose over Liu Chen's residence, it marked the beginning of a day that was anything but ordinary for him. In a moment that felt like a breakthrough, Liu Chen realized he could stand up without the support of his wheelchair. The sensation in his right leg had significantly returned, signaling a near-complete recovery. This milestone filled him with a surge of excitement and optimism about regaining his full mobility, a prospect that seemed increasingly achievable. Liu Chen's remarkable progress was largely attributed to his engagement with the Empyrean God realm. Consequently, he was eager to continue his journey within this extraordinary game, so he immediately puts on his VR headset. And since he was now at level 14, he speculated that just 3 more levels might fully restore his physical condition, which he was truly thankful for that this game to even exist at the right time. After the game completely booted up, Liu Chen had returned to his virtual domain. Liu Chen noted the ease and comfort with which his subordinates had adapted to their responsibilities, particularly in caring for the divine beasts. However, noticing a hint of complacency setting in, he decided to invigorate their routine. He instructed them to embark on an excursion within their territory, each accompanied by one of the 10 little beasts. The objective was to actively level up these creatures through strategic battles against other monsters, a task requiring vigilant guidance to ensure their survival. As they were on their own, he couldn't be with them for now, since he has to beat up someone else first. But Liu Chen was aware that locating members of the Dynasty Guild in the vast wild area would be challenging, so he decided to seek assistance, and the Iron Blood Guards were the perfect candidates for this task, as they had a grudge against the Dynasty Guild for betraying a previous agreement to share a beast they had acquired together. And with this reason, the Iron Blood Guards readily agreed to help Liu Chen track down the Dynasty members, but with the additional condition that they be the first to know if he had any high-quality equipment for auction, which Liu Chen think was fair, so he accepted it. And in an impressively short span of just 5 minutes, the Iron Blood Guards located the Dynasty members, and since Liu Chen was fueled by a mix of vengeance and a desire to assert dominance, he immediately launched a ruthless assault, and his approach was brutal and calculated, aimed at cause both physical and psychological damage, as he wanted the Dynasty members to feel utterly powerless, and make them realize that they are just trash in his presence. And since his assault was swift and effective, in mere moments, he had eliminated all Dynasty players in the area and began collecting their valuable loot. As he gathered the items, a realization dawned on Liu Chen. To truly support his sister Louis, he needed to be more than an unseen guardian. He needed a human identity within the game. This led him to recall the Reputation Shop offered skins in exchange for defeating over 1,000 monsters of the same type. But the key word there was monsters, so Liu Chen pondered whether players would count towards this tally. To his delight, he discovered that player kills were indeed counted by the Reputation Shop. Furthermore, he was already halfway to meeting this requirement. This revelation invigorated Liu Chen. It meant he could openly support his sister and step out of the shadows to fight by her side. With this, he focused his efforts on hunting Dynasty members, and each Dynasty member he defeated brought him closer to his goal of acquiring a human avatar. However, even with his unwavering determination, 10 hours had passed, and he still wasn't close enough to unlock a human avatar, as these damn players knows how to run and make him chase for them, and he was sick of this, so he decided to leave the game for a while and check how his sister was doing. Luchin immediately picked up his phone to call his sister. As he expected, she wasn't in the best of spirits, frustrated by the continuous harassment from Dynasty Guild members, and Luchin, who had not yet unlocked the human avatar in the game, was unable to directly assist her in his true identity. However, he had some ideas to circumvent this limitation, and so he asked his sister for her game ID, mentioning that he knew a master player who might be able to help her. Understandably, she was skeptical at first, due to her assuming her brother is not playing the game, but because Luchin was persistent, she eventually provided her ID. With this information, Luchin felt a sense of relief. He was confident that he could assist his sister in the game, even if it meant operating under a different guise. And so after a restful night, Luchin eagerly started the game again and added his sister Louis, though he chose to remain anonymous, as he thought revealing that he was the top player only on Wild might be overwhelming for her.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
And just as expected, her in-game name exuding that stepsister vibe who can get stuck from a washing machine. Even her display pic is down horrendous. She's down bad for real. Still, Luchin was oblivious of this fact, or he didn't mind at all, and just casually started introducing himself as the master player he had mentioned earlier, offering his help to Louis, to which Louis quickly explained her predicament. A Dynasty Guild member named Little Dancer and their group were monopolizing the Neutral Zone's quest NPC, preventing her and her small group from completing their quests. But given the crowded nature of the Neutral Zone, Luchin realized that his presence there would undoubtedly cause a commotion. Therefore, he decided to target the Dynasty Guild's main force first to unlock his human avatar. He learned that they were currently engaged in battling a small boss in the 100 Beasts Mountain and swiftly set off towards them. And just as Luchin wanted, the Dynasty Guild members were busy fighting the boss, and they seemed to be struggling with it, as it proved to be more challenging than they had anticipated. But unfortunately for them, there's one more boss that is more competent than the one they are fighting now, and he is now rushing towards them at full speed, ready to give the fate they deserved. And everyone from the Dynasty Guild already encountered this boss once or twice before, so they are now beginning to think that this boss is particularly holding a grudge against them. Even the guild leader couldn't hold a candle to Luchin.
Did you pray today?
No.
You didn't pray today? Because
No,
if you didn't, I'ma have to dig you down on some gangster shit.
But soon succumbed to his poison debuff, which really disappointed Luchin as he plans to torture them more. And the fact that they only drop some healing potions is not helping either. Unexpectedly, a video mail from Louise suddenly popped up, which instantly made Luchin curious as he had been wondering what his sister looks like in-game. And just as expected, she looks like the same, but with the more unique features that set her apart from other players, and she seems to be rushing toward the NPC to complete the quest, as the Dynasty Guild members seem to have left. But as she got close, she realized that it was all just a trap all along, as vines suddenly emerged from the ground stopping her tracks, preventing her from moving any further. The culprit behind this trap was Little Dancer, an obnoxious woman with a clear inferiority complex, as she wants to be worshipped first before letting Louis get to the NPC and complete her quest. But because Louis didn't comply with her demands, and she got that weird in-game name of a Brocon, Little Dancer whipped her ass and mocked her for being a pervert. Meanwhile, watching this unfold, Luchin's frustration and anger boiled over. He was enraged by the treatment his sister was receiving at the hands of this player. With this, he was determined to put an end to her antics and completely end this woman's career. Luchin swiftly fulfilled the necessary requirements to unlock his human form and immediately transformed. His height decreased, and the spider legs, wooden horns, and snake tails that characterized his previous form disappeared. Now in his human skin, Luchin's avatar mirrored his real appearance, with his equipment displayed as it would be on any normal player. This immediately excites him, and the fact that he has the ability to hide his ID. He can now say that he truly became a wolf in sheep's clothing, blending in with other players. However, he was too late to directly assist his sister Louis in the game, as she messaged him about logging off due to her frustration and bad mood. Understanding her need for space, Luchin let her be, while he decided to explore the level 10 main city to get a sense of the current in-game dynamics, but he made sure to change his equipment first to avoid drawing attention. Meanwhile, in the real world, Louis was visibly upset as she exited the game. Then a coworker quickly comforted her, assuring her that their boss and other colleagues would help her seek revenge once they returned from a meal. and Louie was initially surprised by her boss's willingness to get involved in her personal conflict with the little dancer from the Dynasty Guild. However, she can't help but be concerned about the possibility of escalating the issue into a broader guild conflict. Her coworker tried to reassure her that their guild, being large, wouldn't risk their reputation by targeting a smaller group. However, despite the outward confidence, the coworker internally hoped that the Dynasty Guild, known for their ruthlessness, wouldn't escalate the situation further against Louie's group. Meanwhile, in the game world, Liu Chen was making his way through the forest towards the level 10 main city, but his journey was interrupted when he stumbled upon a level 11 ghost-faced beauty monster angrily approaching him, which only intrigued Liu Chen by its unique appearance, and therefore was eager to test his abilities in his new human form and prepared to take it down with a single strike. However, before he could make his move, he noticed a group of players rushing towards him, as they were all up in arms to give the fade to this single monster, jumping on him like he'd be on someone's turf. But in reality, the group just wanted to help Liu Chen as they thought he needs saving, and since this was a nice gesture, Liu Chen just let them be. But as he observed the group more closely, he recognized one of the players. It was the beauty who helped him when he was buying a house, so it seems like she is also playing Empyrean, going by the in-game name Ideal Flower. Within moments, the trio successfully defeated the ghost-faced beauty monster, and their victory was rewarded with a shoulder pad drop, since none of them required the item. The player known as Sister Manhua, dressed in blue, suggested they sell it and share the profits later. This proposal was met with no objections from the other team members, illustrating a sense of camaraderie and mutual respect within the group. After dealing with the equipment, Manhua approached Liu Chen with a curious look. She noticed that his equipment resembled theirs, but his ID was hidden, making his level invisible. Intrigued, she asked why he was alone and not part of a guild, to which Liu Chen confidently replied that he was a lone wolf without a guild. This seemed unusual to Manhua, as surviving in the game was challenging enough in a group, let alone solo, and Liu Chen knows this as well. So he shifted the conversation to the trio's other companion, a man with a distinctive in-game name that demanded everyone to kneel or face his wrath. Liu Chen humorously commented on the intimidating nature of the name, eliciting laughter from the group. The irony of the man's gentle demeanor compared to his fierce in-game name amused the two women, while the man himself sheepishly acknowledged the silliness of his chosen name. And with the ice broken and finding the trio intriguing, Liu Chen proposed joining them, while flattering them by saying their kind-hearted intervention had saved his life. And with these gracious words, they were instantly swayed, and so they welcomed him into their group. As they journeyed towards the level 10 main city, Liu Chen engaged them in casual conversation, asking about their guild. He observed their well-equipped status and assumed that they belonged to an above-average guild, which Manhua clarified that they were not in a guild either but were simply playing with friends, and they had hired someone to guide them through the poison mist forest. And Liu Chen responded that he had done the same, though in reality, this was a lie. After a 10-minute journey, Liu Chen and the group arrived at the main city gates, where he was surprised to find a large gathering of players, which Ideal Flower explained that the current crowd was relatively small compared to when the server had merged, a time when the number of players was so large it surpassed even the newbie zone. But Liu Chen, who had spent his time in the game in monster form, found it difficult to relate to her experience. So as they got near at the entrance of the city, Liu Chen was in a surprise to notice a screen displaying a unique ranking system within the main city. This was distinct from the usual level rankings. This was the Twin Tower ranking, showcasing the mightiest players vying for the top positions. The ranking held such prestige that everyone entering or leaving the city couldn't help but admire those listed. But unfortunately, these rankings had remained unchanged for quite some time, largely due to the dominance of the top-ranked player, Qingyi Taoga, who was a professional fighter in real life with exceptional physical reaction speed. Still, despite his supremacy, other factors like level, equipment, and gameplay strategy played crucial roles, so Manhua speculated that changes in the rankings could occur in the future. Meanwhile, Liu Chen was just thinking heavily as he had heard from the forums that the big shots and guilds are competing to get on this list now, so the competition is extremely fierce. But now that he is a human, he might have a chance to get in the rankings and get rewards. However, a concern lingered in his mind. He wasn't sure if he could still hide his ID after winning a match in the rankings. And as he was lost in thought, one of the group members noticed Liu Chen's contemplation and reassured him not to worry too much about the rankings, especially since they were just newbies. And he jokingly added that only the notorious player who could create chaos with his in-game name alone would be concerned with such matters. This comment piqued Liu Chen's interest, so he inquired further about who the guy was referring to. To Liu Chen's surprise, the guy mentioned only I'm Wild, Liu Chen's own notorious in-game identity, which really caught him off guard. Still, he decided to just react casually to not seem suspicious, but instead he just let out an awkward laugh. And it didn't help that Ideal Flower then playfully teased him, suggesting that he might be only on Wild since he was hiding his ID. This teasing put Lu Chen in an even more nervous spot as he tried to deny any association with that identity. Fortunately, the group saw it as a joke and his flustered reaction only amused them further. And before the situation escalated, Manhua intervened, redirecting the group's focus to buying some needed medicine, which the group readily agreed, and followed her lead. And this interaction lightened the mood and allowed Lu Chen to maintain his cover, while also showcasing the friendly and playful dynamics within the group. Now that they had grown comfortable with Lu Chen's presence, the members felt at ease discussing personal topics. They talked about how Sister Manhua decided to leave her acting career and focus on playing the game, with plans to create her own guild. She found the game not only enjoyable but also profitable, a welcome change from the challenges she faced in her acting career, particularly her difficult interactions with producers. And her friends within the group, visibly supportive, showed their encouragement for her choice, indicating a strong bond among them. Meanwhile, Lu Chen listened to this conversation with a smile, as it was clear to him now why he felt Manhua had such a charismatic and alluring presence. And as the group engaged in conversation, walking through the bustling city, their path eventually brought them near the Twin Tower. This prominent landmark in the game was not just a physical structure but also a symbol of the competition and prestige associated with the Twin Tower rankings. And since Lu Chen was enticed to try this new challenge out, he eagerly looked at how he could participate, and seeing that each of the tower was divided for single and guild competition, he decided to take the Immortal Tower for single contestant first. However, as he approached the tower, he found his presence largely overlooked and even disrespected by other players. His small stature and modest equipment didn't command much attention or respect. This lack of recognition was exemplified when the muscle-head Chingy Tauga rudely brushed him aside, treating him as an obstacle rather than a fellow competitor. Chingy Tauga's men followed suit, threatening Lu Chen and warning him to stay out of their sight. Despite this unpleasant interaction, Lu Chen chose not to retaliate immediately. He understood that a better opportunity to prove himself and possibly even humiliate them would come later. So he continued. As Lu Chen made his way to the entrance of the Immortal Tower, he couldn't help but overhear conversations among other players. They were discussing about how the three masters are going to challenge the tower again, such as Chingy Tauga, Yuming Valley Master, and Loming Zhan Tian. Although the latter two names were unfamiliar to Lu Chen, it was apparent that these players had been dominating the top 3 spots in the rankings for a significant period, and their current objective was to conquer the 4th floor of the tower, a goal motivated by the success of players on other foreign servers in achieving this feat. This piece of information captured Lu Chen's interest. It wasn't just the reputation of these top players that intrigued him, but also the challenge they faced. Knowing that others had succeeded on foreign servers made the prospect even more enticing. Eager and determined, Lu Chen felt a surge of anticipation to test his own abilities in the tower. But as Lu Chen approached the entrance of the Immortal Tower, his presence caught the attention of other players, primarily due to his basic armor, which marked him as a newcomer in the main city. This, coupled with the fact that the 3 masters had already entered the tower, made his decision to enter seem audacious to the onlookers. The public screen at the tower would simultaneously display the progress of all challengers, and with Lu Chen being the outlier among the seasoned masters, his attempt was seen as an impending spectacle. And so the crowd around him began to laugh, anticipating a swift and embarrassing defeat for Lu Chen. His decision to hide his ID only added to their skepticism about his skills. Some even wagered that he wouldn't last more than a minute inside the tower. But despite the ridicule and doubt cast upon him, Lu Chen remained unfazed, as he was determined to let his performance speak for itself rather than be swayed by the crowd's scorn. So with a composed demeanor, he continued to the tower's entrance and applied to take on the challenge, which the attendant at the tower processed his application without any hesitation, allowing him to proceed. Previous chapter, Lu Chen, driven by a strong desire to protect his sister from the relentless bullying of the Dynasty Guild, made a strategic decision. He aimed his efforts at eliminating members of the Dynasty Guild, a move that eventually led him to meet the requirements for transforming into a human form. Without hesitation, he embraced this new ability, intending to support his sister more directly rather than from the shadows. However, his transformation came a bit late. His sister had already logged out of the game by the time he was ready. With this new development, Lu Chen decided to explore the level 10 main city, curious about the activities of other human players. As he ventured towards the city, a fortuitous encounter with a trio of players led to an unexpected invitation to join their group. Recognizing this as an opportunity to gain insight into the human players' activities, Lu Chen accepted the offer. During his time with the group, Lu Chen discovered that the main city harbored another ranking system, distinct from the overall level ranking he was familiar with. Intrigued by this revelation and always seeking adventure, he decided to take on this new challenge. However, his timing coincided with the top-ranking players who were also challenging the tower. This led to an unfavorable spotlight on Lu Chen. Other players in the vicinity quickly judged him based on his appearance, assuming him to be a low-level weakling who was out of his depth. Despite this misperception, Liu Chen was unfazed as he decided for the result to do all the talking. Now on to the next part. The onlookers at the tower were astounded and somewhat amused by Liu Chen's audacity. Despite their open mockery and disbelief, he boldly proceeded to enter the tower. Their astonishment was fueled by the fact that even Feng Yong, who was ranked 4th in the tower, hadn't dared to challenge the top 3 players. It seemed only natural for them to question and ridicule the newcomer's boldness. At the same time, Liu Chen's newfound friends, who had just welcomed him into their group, were equally taken aback by his sudden decision. They wished he had consulted them before taking such a step, to avoid what they perceived as an inevitable embarrassment. But now that Liu Chen was inside the tower, they felt there was little they could do but wait for his quick return. Their expectations set low given his minimal gear and apparent inexperience. Moreover, Liu Chen's decision to keep his screen private added to the spectator shock. In the gaming community, such an action was seen as disrespectful, especially when compared to the top 3 players who openly displayed their screens for all to see. But Manhua, the big sister of the group, somewhat tried to understand Liu Chen's choice, speculating that it might have been a way to preserve his dignity, to avoid further embarrassment. With this, Manhua advised her teammates to just focus on the live feeds from the top 3 masters, and just use this opportunity to observe and learn from the masters' skills and strategies. While they awaited Liu Chen's return, anticipating a swift and perhaps uneventful outcome. And just as expected, the top 1 ranker of the tower, Toga, is easily battling the monster inside the tower with intense vigor, as he fully decided to break his record this time around, and catch up to other top players from other parts of the world. However, his efforts seem to have been overshadowed by Liu Chen, as it has already been 15 seconds had passed, but he hadn't left the tower, so it seems like their anonymous new friend has a decent skill of his own. And this was more surprising for the fact that he entered with a shabby equipment, so they are more than sure that this was all skills. Even Ideal Flower suggested to invite Liu Chen to their guild, which Manhua revealed that she was also thinking the same as she was already impressed. The astonishment outside the Immortal Tower grew as the clock ticked past the 2-minute mark, with Liu Chen still nowhere to be seen at the entrance. The initial admiration for his bravery in entering the tower quickly morphed into shock. Surviving for 15 seconds in the tower was already considered impressive by the standards of many players, but enduring for over 2 minutes was beyond what many thought possible, especially for someone apparently new to the challenge. With this, speculation ran rampant among the onlookers. Some theorized that Liu Chen must have extensively studied the tower's monster patterns to achieve such a feat, but this theory was quickly dismissed by others who pointed out the tower's high difficulty level, designed to challenge the top 10,000 players on all of the servers combined, so it couldn't be achieved by study alone. And because of this, another speculation emerged, assuming that Liu Chen might have discovered a bug to exploit, especially since he had chosen to hide his progress from the public screen. Still, all of these were just mere speculations, and with no solid evidence to back any of them, the crowd could do nothing but wait and watch. The tension and anticipation only heightened as 3 minutes passed and Liu Chen remained inside the tower, defying expectations and setting a new precedent for what was thought achievable in the Immortal Tower. The gathered players, while bewildered, couldn't help but feel a growing sense of respect and curiosity about the mysterious newcomer's abilities and strategies. Meanwhile, Tauga was wondering what is going on, as he couldn't enter the next floor, and he already chose to proceed, but nothing was happening. Unfortunately for him, this would continue for his current run, as this was directly caused by Liu Chen's strategic decision to farm the first floor for as long as possible. This was driven by his discovery that each kill earned him 100 copper coins. As someone who was both financially strapped and opportunistic, he wasn't about to let this chance to accumulate wealth slip away. Unfortunately for Liu Chen, the tower's rules limited farming on a single floor to a maximum of 4 minutes. After this period, players were automatically advanced to the next level. This restriction immediately pissed Liu Chen, but being an adept gamer, he quickly adapted. He summoned his level 11 Shadow Cat, which will effectively double his earnings. To his surprise, he noticed that the copper coins he could receive doubled since he is at a higher level. This sudden realization excites his money-driven ass. More than he expected, Liu Chen was systematically propelled to the next level, which he was gladly to accept, and seeing that he can now gain more than 40 silver coins per stage helped to energize him further. The Immortal Tower was proving to be a lucrative venture, and with every successful strike of his weapon, he could almost feel his bank account swelling. As Luchin reveled in his success within the immortal tower, the crowd outside was engulfed in disbelief and confusion. Their initial mockery of Luchin, whom they perceived as a mere novice, was rapidly transforming into astonishment. The crowd was struggling to comprehend how this supposed newcomer had not only survived but was now progressing to the third floor of the tower, and Manhua and her group were no different in their reaction, sharing the same sense of disbelief. The achievement of reaching the third floor, especially for someone perceived as a newbie, was staggering. Their skepticism was rooted in the known difficulty of the tower, which even posed significant challenges to the top 3 rankers. This skepticism seemed justified as the situation in the tower rapidly evolved. Within an additional 2 minutes, 2 of the top 3 rankers were defeated, leaving only Tauga and Luchin still standing in the competition. This unexpected turn of events only heightened the sense of shock among the onlookers. The notion that a newcomer was not only competing on par with but outlasting seasoned veterans of the tower was something that defied their expectations and understanding of the game's dynamics. Meanwhile, Tauga was still oblivious on what happening outside as he was still inside the tower, just wondering why he can't just advance to the next floor like how he used to. So it seems like there's something wrong with the system today. However, this delay inadvertently worked in Tauga's favor. It provided him with an unexpected opportunity to rest and recuperate between the floors. Ordinarily, such pauses were not part of his strategy, but he recognized the advantage it offered. In his assessment, without these unplanned breaks, reaching the 4th floor would have been a significantly more challenging feat. And it is just a few seconds, so the gain was more than the inconvenience, and so he welcomes the next floor with a newfound energy. But with just half a minute on the clock, his confidence soon wavered as he realized that this 4th floor was more than a challenge to him to clear today. He couldn't last much longer, but since he already beaten his personal record, he was more than satisfied to leave. With that, he lasted for 48 seconds on the 4th floor, which he thought was all good. And his yes men, the players who personally knew him from outside, all thinks the same as well. He really lived up to their expectations. They cheered him up, under the impression that he was the first to reach the 4th floor, reinforcing Tauga's own belief in his accomplishment. However, Tauga couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. He noticed the absence of commendations from other top players like Yuming Valley Master and Longbing Zhantian, which was unusual. Curious about the lack of acknowledgement from his peers and sensing an unusual shift in the crowd's focus, Tauga began to survey his surroundings. The expressions on the faces of the other players were not of admiration towards him but seemed to be fixed on something else, something seemingly miraculous. Intrigued by this unexpected turn of events, Tauga quickly turned to see what had captured everyone's attention. To his astonishment, he realized there was another player still inside the tower, enduring the challenges for a longer duration than him. The air was thick with anticipation as the crowd watched the anonymous challenger inside the tower, but this player seemed content to take his sweet time on the same level rather than progressing fast, which puzzled the onlookers. Unbeknownst to them, Luchin was just grinding these monsters for coins, and 400 copper for one monster is one hell of a deal to pass on. And with this amount, he skillfully accumulated a whopping total of 63 silver coins, significantly boosting his earnings to around 150 silver coins. This remarkable achievement only fueled his excitement and satisfaction, and so he faced another floor with a grin on his face. At the same time, Manhua's group came to a realization. Their earlier efforts to save him from a monster were unnecessary. He was more than capable of taking care of himself. In fact, his entry into the 5th floor marked a world server first achievement. This also prompted the other players to speculate that maybe this mysterious man is the infamous Only I'm Wild player, a figure shrouded in mystery where no one has ever seen his real face. To confirm this, they decided to check Fonglingji's live broadcast room, known for its timely updates and insights into the game's happenings. And just as expected, Fonglingji was already probing into the identity of the anonymous challenger, linking him to Only I'm Wild. However, Luchin was steps ahead in the mind game. He acted that he wasn't the mysterious guy they speculate him to be, and he did this since revealing his identity would just bring more complications than benefits. With his identity still concealed, Luchin decided not to push further in the tower challenge. Clearing more floors would only draw undue attention and risk exposing him. Therefore, he strategically chose to stop at the 5th floor, utilizing the remaining time efficiently. He continued to farm coins, and upon exiting the tower, he couldn't help but smile. His clever strategy had paid off handsomely, netting him a total of 200 silver coins, a significant addition to his in-game wealth. As Luchin exited the tower, he was met with an unexpected scene. A large crowd of players had gathered around him. their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. The atmosphere was tense, with Lu Chen uncertain whether the crowd's intentions were hostile. But before the situation could escalate, the friendly guy from earlier diffused the tension, approaching Lu Chen with a mix of awe and enthusiasm. He complimented Lu Chen on his remarkable achievement and eagerly inquired about his tactics in the tower, which caught Lu Chen off guard, so found himself slightly flustered, but still he tried to be modest while hiding his secrets, downplaying his strategy by casually mentioning that he just kept running through the tower, that's why he survived for that long. His response, however, didn't sit well with everyone in the crowd, especially Tauga, the former top-ranked player, as he knew better than anyone that mere movement skills and basic equipment couldn't possibly account for Lu Chen's success in the tower. Confronting Lu Chen with a mix of accusation and disbelief, Tauga bluntly called out what he believed to be lies. He asserted that it was impossible to clear the floors in the manner Lu Chen described and insinuated that cheating must have been involved. The confrontation took a more intense turn as Tauga reminded Lu Chen that this was their territory, while implicitly demanding an explanation. With this, the crowd's focus intensified on Lu Chen, waiting for his response to the serious accusation. But Lu Chen isn't a chum who is going to let this disrespect ignored. It was finally time to show this second-rate his damn place. So Lu Chen cleared up to this kid that he doesn't owe no explanations to anyone, especially not to someone who was disrespecting him. But he can tell him one thing though, and that is the community would be better off with a squeaker like Tauga shutting his trap, as this is no longer his territory. And Lu Chen was so cold with his delivery that he left this white-haired dude frozen in fear. He literally got this fool internal monologuing on the spot, leading him to realize that he shouldn't be messing with this anonymous guy, since he is the only player in the whole world who has reached 5th floor. So such a person is definitely not simple and must have connection that will exterminate him from existence if they wanted to. And his intuition was right, but his silence was loud enough for others to realize the same thing, as they began to understand the gravity of challenging someone like Lu Chen. His achievement in the tower spoke volumes about his capabilities, and it became clear to everyone present that questioning Lu Chen further would be unwise. So from that moment on, no one dared to question or challenge Lu Chen again. Now that was taken care of, Lu Chen decided to challenge the Demon Ceiling Tower as well, but since he needed to be in a guild first, the maid prohibited him from entering. But Lu Chen can't have that, since he wanted the mana shard reward, which can increase his mana cultivation speed by 20%, but joining a random guild isn't possible for the time being, and he couldn't just create a guild himself as he need at least 4 people. Luckily, he recalled that the group he was with before wanted to create a guild on the way. With this, he turned to approach them, and told them about his plans on creating a guild mainly to get a reward from the tower, so they could join another guild later and quit any time after the challenge was finished, which they don't have a problem with, but they clarified that they can't be of help to him at all, so it would be kind of embarrassing to accept his offer, prompting for Lu Chen to clarify that they shouldn't worry, since he will challenge it himself, and he won't let them help him for nothing. They will have his word that he would help them if they ever get bullied, and he will even give them equipments later after this was all done. To his surprise, Manhua, along with her companions, expressed their willingness to help Lu Chen without expecting any rewards or compensation. This selfless attitude greatly impressed Lu Chen, making him feel fortunate to have crossed paths with such benevolent individuals. Their next step was to officially establish a guild, a task made easy by the proximity of the guild registration office. However, forming a guild came with a significant expense, a fee of 50 silver coins. For many, this amount would be substantial, but for Lu Chen, who had recently amassed a considerable sum from his exploits in the Immortal Tower, it was merely a trifle. His casual handling of the fee left his newfound companions in awe, leading them to speculate that he might come from a wealthy background. But Lu Chen, who was focused on his goal, chose not to clarify or react much to their speculations, as his primary concern was to create the guild as soon as possible. Thus, with a mix of efficiency and nonchalance, their new guild, the Mad Wave, had been officially created. With this, they were now eligible to take on the challenge of the Demon Ceiling Tower, opening up new opportunities and adventures for Lu Chen and his companions in the Mad Wave Guild.